testing our audio, and so now we are ready to go for our board meeting. It's December 1st, 2020. Welcome, everybody. All trustees are present this evening. The board did meet in closed session, and I will have trustee Avila read out the closed session items.
Good evening. The first item we discussed in closed session, public employee discipline, dismissal, or release, and that was information only. Second item we discussed was pursuant to Government Code 54957 and 54957.6. Conference with labor negotiators, Jonathan Perez, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources. Employees Organization, Nevada Federation of Teachers. That was information only. Final item we discussed in closed session pursuant to Government Code 54956.9. Conference with legal counsel pending litigation. Coalition to Save San Marin, Nevada Unified School District, Marin County Superior Court case number CID 1702295. We give direction. Thank you.
All right. Before we move on to approval of the agenda, we're going to bring up, if I could have our staff bring up the document that states our new format.
Do you want to do the pledge of allegiance?
Oh, yes. You know what? Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. All right. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you for the reminder.
Yeah.
That's true. All right. So up on our screen, or what you can see from home, I'm hoping is our form that is voice your opinion and how you can address the board. We've changed our format this evening, starting tonight, to a Zoom webinar. So this allows us to have public comment during the meeting. So I just want to quickly show what the new format is. And if you are listening like on NCTV or YouTube and you want to be able to make a comment, how to get the meeting ID number, the password, you want to go to the NUSD website, go to board agenda, click on board agenda for December 1st, and it'll bring up the agenda for this evening, and it'll list on the very left-hand side the meeting ID and password. So go ahead and do that if you'd like to speak this evening. Also, there is a link for public comment, which will bring up this form and then provide you some additional information. So in order to address the board, you can either do it with a written comment prior to this evening by 4 p.m. on Monday of the week of the board meeting. That's what this form states. And that public comment will just be given to the board prior to the meeting, but will not be read out loud at the board meeting. Public comment on a closed session item will be treated the same way by 4 p.m. on the Monday prior to the board meeting. And if you going into the public comment for this evening, you will be on our Zoom webinar. If you'd like to make a public comment, be on our Zoom webinar. And what you'll do is raise your hand with the raised hand icon. And we have a staff member, Jennifer Kessler, is helping us out. And along with Ellen is both here in the room with us to help us move this along. It's quite an undertaking. So be understandable and be patient with us as we move through this process of making sure you're able to speak during the board meeting and on the item you want to speak to. So again, do the raised hand button, and you can do that right now. And Jennifer Casper will communicate with you through the Zoom on what item you'd like to speak to. If it's a non-agenda public comment, which is something that's not on the agenda, then specify that. If it is something listed on our agenda, state the item you would like. And then once we get to that item, I will ask if there's any public comment, and we'll go from there. So the other thing is the regulations, or I guess rules or protocols that we have in place for public comment. You will have 3 minutes to speak on the item, and we do have a maximum time of 20 minutes per item. We can make those adjustments depending on how much public comment we have. I just asked the board if we want to extend the public comment period, we can do that. If it's a lot of people speaking for an item, we might even shorten the time to 2 minutes per speaker and maybe extend the item so we can get more people in to speak. We'll decide that as we get to the item, depending on the number of people. So I hope that gives you a little bit idea as we move forward with our board meetings from now on. This is the format, the Zoom webinar format. And you can also still, if you just want to view the meeting, you can just view it on NCTV or Channel 30. So I hope that provides some context for everybody. All right, we'll move on to approval of our agenda. Nothing has changed in regards to the order of the item.
I will move to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second. Okay, so the first by trustee Nell, a second by trustee Aguila to approve our agenda. All those in favor? 7-0. Just to, Superintendent Casca is going to be, is he here, not here physically in the district office, but is joining us via Zoom, and he'll jump in when he needs to. Public comment on consent items. I've kind of already gone through the public comment format. I don't, if we have any public comment on consent on non-agenda, or excuse me, on consent items. No, and we do not. Okay. So moving on to the consent agenda, is there any item that a trustee would like to approve this evening? Okay, trustee Gadsden?
15I.
15I, okay. Okay, so pulling 15I, and we'll move that into discussion action. That item will become 14C. All right, so approval of our consent.
I'll move approval of tonight's consent agenda with the exception of item number I.
Okay, thank you. One second. So the first by trustee Cooper, a second by trustee Aguila for approval of consent. All those in favor? Okay, 7-0. Just a quick shout out. We approved Joanne Golden, 46 years with Nevada Unified, her retirement. So she will be done at the end of this December here. And I just want to acknowledge her service to our district for such a huge length of time. So, and thank her for that service. So that's a commitment to NUSD.
May I make a comment?
Yes.
So Joanne Golden, my daughter was a student in her class, and my personal thanks to her and the leadership she's provided this district at multiple campuses.
Yeah, right. She's finishing up as Dean of Students at Sinaloa. All right, announcements from the board and our student board members. Do we have I'm sorry, I can't see if we have student board members this evening.
Hi, I'm here. I think I might be the only one on the call though.
Actually, do you mind waiting for a moment? I'm really out of sorts here. We have our student presentation first. We have Sinaloa this evening, so that's my error. I don't have my glasses on, so I'd like to give it.
Good evening, board members, parents, and families in Nevada Unified School District. My name is Jeff Wallace. I'm the principal here at Sinaloa Middle School, and I'm here tonight to share with you our after-school program, which served about 150 of our students here at Sinaloa Middle School. Together with about 6 teachers, 150 students, we were able to have multiple camps for kids to come after school and get some help with their work, to get some socio-emotional fun with their friends and teachers. And we had multiple different types of camps. We had our success camps, which served about 80 students. We had after-school camps that were outdoor activity camps. We had music camps. We had STEM activity camps. And it was just a great experience for our students and our staff. All of our staff members volunteered to be part of the program. Nobody was required to do this. This was something that our teachers wanted to do to help their students. And all the students that participated, about 150 students in total, were here. Some of them here 4 days a week, working on getting their assignments in, getting their grades up, and just doing some fun activities that I'll show you in some of the videos and pictures here in this video. But I just really want to say I'm very proud of the work that we did. Like I said, 40% of the students that came to the camps were able to raise their grades significantly in just 3 weeks. So we're really proud of that. And I'm just so proud of our staff for volunteering to be part of the program, and for the students who participated. I think it was just a great experience for everybody, and I hope you enjoy the pictures and videos that I am about to show you. Sinaloa Middle School is proud to present to you our after-school camp program. For 3 weeks, we had approximately 150 students engaged in success camps, STEM activity camps, music camps, and outdoor activity camps. We knew that we had a problem because when we did our grades, 7 to 10 times as many students as normal were failing classes at Sinaloa versus last year. Our solution was to get as many students as possible in a safe in-person environment to support them in their learning. Overall, about 40% of the students who attended our camps raised their grade point average after the 3 weeks. Our attendance was high throughout the camps, and many of our students who were failing multiple classes changed the trajectory of their grades, and we are confident that they will pass their classes by the end of the semester. Our camp program was a resounding success. We saw a significant improvement in many of our students, a lot of them English language learners and students of color. Students came to school, followed the rules, and showed that even our most challenging kids can handle in-person instruction with the rules we have in place. We served about 20% of our students over 3 weeks, and I'm very proud of our staff at Sinaloa that stepped up to help deliver this program. All of our teachers followed safety procedures, such as 6 feet apart, students and staff wearing masks, hand sanitizer, temperature checks, and other measures to ensure that all students were safe. During this time, with 150 students on campus over 3 weeks, we had no instances of any school-based transmission of coronavirus that we know of. All of our teachers were extremely supportive, caring, and compassionate in helping kids raise their grades. We also had fun outdoor activity camps where kids could play socially distanced sports and other games with their friends while wearing masks and following all safety precautions. Our 6th grade students also got the opportunity to participate in STEM activity camps where they could have fun with their peers, build bridges, towers, and other activities, all while being with a caring, compassionate teacher and their peers. It was an amazing experience getting to watch our students laughing, having fun, and being with their peers in a setting that only schools can provide. From talking with our students, parents, teachers, and families, I know that many of our kids out there in Nevada are struggling right now and across our state and our country with this pandemic. They're struggling emotionally, they're struggling with anxiety, they're struggling with depression, they're struggling with their grades. And so these camps were our way here at Sinaloa to show that we care, that we want our students to be successful, and that we wanted to get as many of our students here in person as possible as soon as we can. Our culture of caring is strong here at Sinaloa Middle School. The teachers stepped up big time to help our students. I'm very proud of them, and I'm very proud of the parents and students who sent their kids to our camps to get the extra support they needed. So again, board members, Superintendent Koska, and all the rest of the community, thank you for watching this video, and thank you for supporting us at Sinaloa Middle School.
All right, so that was all via video. So Jeff is not joining us this evening, so we can't really comment on it, but if anybody would like the presentation, we can always have that sent.
Jeff.
Oh, yes, Jeff. Jeff is there. Hi, Jeff.
Hello.
Thank you for the video. It was well done.
You're welcome. Thank you. I'm glad you were able to watch it.
Any questions or comments from the board? Trustee Jackson.
So I'll just say that I had a couple of families. My daughter is actually in 6th grade at Sinaloa, and a couple of families that did the camp spoke so highly of it, and we're thrilled to have that opportunity. So thank you for that, and also for everything you and the staff are doing. My daughter's first, well, she was at school yesterday and today, and I didn't realize how much it would mean. So thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome. Yeah, we're so glad to have the kids back. It was great to just have them on campus and seeing their faces, and it was just a great opportunity. The kids, our science teachers put together some great labs for them, so they were having a good time, and it you could just, I mean, you can't see the smiles on their faces, but you know they're there. So, you know, I'm just really happy that we were able to get the kids on campus during the camps. And then now that the sixth graders are here in person, it's just a whole different experience having the kids here in person. So we're really grateful for it.
Trustee Miller?
Thank you very much. This pandemic, everybody's at home and doesn't quite understand what's going on in somebody else's household. And we hear about nursing homes and senior citizens being impacted. And then we turn to schools, and the evidence that you provided, and I've heard from others, is there's a certain group of students that working on a Zoom session at home is just not connecting them. And that you guys have taken the time over the summer camp, the additional effort of all your teachers and your administrators to create the summer camp, and then have the students back and start to actually look them in the eye face to face and be able to assess the needs and allow them to re-engage in the educational opportunities that are available but haven't been available to them and to certain students that are blocked. So thank you very much that you've stepped out into the unknown and tried to figure out how we can do a better job. I think it's in the best tradition of Sinaloa and the Novato community. I'm sure we'll keep doing this at other opportunities, but this is just a great example of us doing, our teachers stepping forward and finding a way to solve our students' needs. And thank you very much. It's obviously paying off.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else? All right. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Great work. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item, now we're back in order here, like where I was before. 11A, this is our announcements of the Board of Trustees, Superintendent, and our student board members. And I'm going to start with Eva. I see her up there, our Zoom. So when she's ready, go ahead.
Hope you all had a good Thanksgiving. We don't have a whole lot to present tonight. We have a holiday spirit week coming up, and we are working on makeup pictures for the yearbook. Seniors pictures are Saturday, and 9th through 11th grade makeup pictures are in late January. And the parent group is setting up a seniors finals care package to pass out next week to those who signed up for it. And I think everybody's looking forward to another break soon coming up. That's all I have for you tonight.
Thank you. Thanks, Eva. Trustee, no. The announcement?
Not there.
Okay. Trustee Gasson?
I just had a couple of things. The first, I don't know if the rest of you saw the CSBA Equitable Support for California Students during COVID event. I attended that, and it's actually,
I didn't go there.
it was actually interesting that the two things I took from it, which I thought I would share, was they were talking about having to build resilience as hybrid learning is probably not going away. And that teachers are having to partner with parents a lot more and to make, recognize the extra work and effort going into, it really is a tremendous amount of extra work. With that, I wanted to also say how much I appreciate our teachers and staff for continued support for our kids and recognizing that they're just doing so much more, all of us are. And I had an opportunity to participate in a Linwood reading comprehension thing, which was a lot of fun. The kids picked a book and had to do a presentation on the theme. And so we got to go. It was an interesting experience for me because I had never Zoomed in with kids before, and so they would put us with a group of kids, and then we'd go back and go get assigned to a new. And so hearing their experiences being on Zoom and in school that way, it was interesting. Of course, it was before the break. I think it was had been, because I remember they were all excited about their school. So that was a great opportunity.
Trustee Cooper?
Hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I just wanted to add, I'm very thankful for our teachers and staff for all the hard work that they're doing in these times. So thank you again.
Thank you. Trustee Mack?
Just double down on what Trustee Cooper said. I just want to really, really be clear that I'm really thankful for everything that leadership has done here downtown, site leaders, teachers, staff on each campus. It's been a ton of work. You guys are working your butts off, and I really appreciate it. It's amazing. We have all of our elementary school kids back in class, at least part-time. It's huge, as Diane said, seeing the change in their kids after being able to go to school for 2 days is amazing. And now we have the sixth graders in middle school in a way that helps them transition to that new environment. I'm really, really pleased with what's going on. And I have to say that, at this point, no news is good news. We're getting through this. It's working. And I have a lot more confidence going forward. I think, once again, I want to thank everybody who really led this, especially right here in this room in downtown. Leadership starts at the top. Good job. Thank you.
Trustee Miller?
No comments. I'm thrilled about our engaging, serving our students. That is, after all, what a public school is supposed to do. And sometimes we have to do what we think is the very best and then adjust as we move forward. And in my conversations with the superintendent, we're paying really close attention to the public health data and the information that's coming to make sure, while we're after the benefit of our students learning, we're paying close attention to the health consequences. And thank you very much, Chris Koska and his whole team, in delivering the leadership, and the teachers for coming into the classroom and putting themselves at risk to deliver the program.
Trustee Gila?
Yes, I attended the Golden Bell meeting, and we're going to continue celebrating teachers and superintendents and trustees, and the celebration will continue. It will be virtual, and tentative date will probably be May 20th. And this is something that's been going on since 2002, and this is wonderful to be part of that committee. And so that was one thing. The next thing is I attended the PICA parent graduation. That's the Parent Institute for Quality Education. And so it's wonderful that 32 parents were able to graduate this year. So that it's a big deal, and congratulate them. I'd like to congratulate them again. And I just want to just encourage the board or the community that this year Rancho Elementary School is asking the community to participate in their pajama reading evening for the kids. And I participated in that in the last year. It was fun. And anybody this year, again, the Rancho is asking the community if they would like to do it. It will be virtual. Obviously, for any questions, you can always contact Rancho or maybe Ellen. And so that's it.
Thank you. A few of the things that I attended have already been expressed. I did do the CSBA webinar or forum. I look at my calendar. I remember doing that before we went on break. And that was a good forum or good webinar. I also did First by Marin, which is juvenile. It was about juvenile justice and restorative justice. Obviously, works with conversation we're having around SROs and things. Very informative. I really enjoyed just being present and listening to the comments and the presentations and learning. The PK graduation for Sinaloa, I did that as well as Trustee Gila and as Trustee Gasson. I was able to do Title with Linwood and do the 4th and 5th grade, one of their 4th, 5th grade combo classes and their book club, and listening to the kids present the books that they had read and talking about theme was the main thing. Also Model the Way Awards, I was able to participate in that. And then Monday, I went out to Hamilton, which is my neighborhood school, and I always try to show up on that first day when our kids are coming back. So as we waving our kids back into the classroom. So I know everything was done very smoothly. The staff did a great job. We had a couple people from the district office there to also help out, but the kids were excited to be back, and the processes are in place as we've implemented, and they seem to be working. So again, I couldn't agree with more of all the comments made by the trustees, and thanking our staff and our administrators the people in this building right here of all the work that's the undertaking to get our kids back in class. Yes, Trustee Miller.
In addition, this week I reviewed a report by the Legislative Analyst's Office, and I know Yancey's got a copy, and I talked briefly by email over it. And there's some new news in terms of economics that it looks like the next year is not going to be as grim as they thought, but the years after are going to be tough. So I recommend I'll ask that I'll copy get sent to all of us so you can take a look at it. It's about a 17-page write-up of the current state of economics in the state of California. And, I thought it was a really good read.
Good, thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, moving to Superintendent Casca. Do you have any? I see him up there.
Yeah, I'm here. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. I continue to remind myself that no matter how hard things are, how wacky things are, we all have so much to be thankful for. And I, in particular, like the trustees have said many times, I'm appreciative of all the work that's gone into getting our schools to a place where we can safely reopen them for our students and our staff. So thank you to everybody who's played a role in that. You guys have, I'm sure you've noticed, I'm not at the meeting today. While it wasn't my plan, I am working from home this week. I started to not feel well on Sunday morning, and so I stayed home Monday, even though that it was something that I would typically work through. You know, it just feels like just a little nagging something. I still didn't feel great this morning, so I stayed home. I decided to go ahead and get a COVID test, and I'm gonna stay home and continue to work while I wait for my results. And you know, I hope that there's a lesson in that. You know, I'm not going into work because I care about the people that I work with. I care about the people that I serve, and I believe that I need to model the way during these difficult times that if you're not feeling well, please stay home. If your children aren't feeling well, please keep them home. The more that we practice these precautions, the more that we follow the guidance from public health, the sooner that we can get our schools all the way open and get back to whatever normal looks like after the pandemic. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Casca. All right, we'll move on to our non-agenda public comment. This is item 12. And just a reminder to everybody in regards to making public comment, either non-agenda or on an agenda item, raise your hand in the chat, I guess. And I just want to remind you, the chat is not to have a back and forth conversation with people who are on there with you. It's to state that you want to make a comment, and Jennifer Casper will make an exchange with you and make sure she has your information, and then we'll go from there. And when we move to public comment, what I'll do with the items on the agenda, I will say that it's time for public comment. We will have that one time period for public comment, and that will be it. We're not going to jump back and forth with the board and then public comment. It'll be one time period within that item. All right, so non-agenda public comment. We do have one person. We do have one community member who would like to speak this evening. So I will go ahead and. I don't know how we.
Hello?
There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Hi, Mariah.
Hi. All right, let me switch to my comment. Okay. Good evening, NUSD board members and Superintendent Casca. It has been almost 9 months since I have been able to give my own public comment. During those 9 months, I listened to every board meeting and repainted my bathroom and kitchen. I just completed my kitchen, so the change of format is perfect timing for me, or another project was sure to present itself. Needless to say, it's been very hard for me to sit and listen from home instead of from the district office. I'm hopeful that the steps toward an in-person hybrid board meeting will continue to be taken. The boardroom is at least 3 times larger than a standard classroom, so I'm very curious as to how the hybrid in-person board meeting unfolds. Tonight I had 2 issues I wanted to address, but due to the time restriction, I eliminated one to really focus on the other. I want to address the idea of both what a false narrative is and the issue of public perception. I've been back in the hybrid model for 2 days now, and not only am I more exhausted and stressed than I would have ever imagined, but I have found that I'm already falling into a trap of making my students and their families feel like everything is going wonderfully. I have a smile on my face as I'm filled with fear and worry. Classrooms are not being cleaned daily. Cleaning logs are not being filled out. Teachers are lacking air filters or air purifiers in their classrooms. Some of these classrooms are shared by 2 or 3 teachers, visited by students by multiple cohorts. The rooms have not improper ventilation, and without a plan communicated to the staff to resolve the issue, teachers are worried. Teachers are dealing with students who refuse to wear a mask and seem to get daily chances to remedy the situation with no clear plan on what happens when said child just won't wear a mask. We have a teacher with no heat in her room. We have families too nervous to send their children to in-person learning, so suddenly some teachers are now teaching a cohort A, a cohort B, and this other cohort C that is all virtual. The list goes on of things that are not all sunshine and roses, and the truth is the whole picture needs to be shared. Teachers are afraid to bring these things to the public, and I feel as the president of the teachers union, it's my responsibility to bring these issues to light. While I appreciate that some of the trustees said thanks to the teachers tonight, with special thanks to the staff at the DO, mentioned a few times, that comment right there is the root of why the relationship between NUSD and NFT is broken. Special thanks to the staff right here at the DO. How about special thanks to all of the staff on the front line, classified and certificated, who are busting their butts morning, noon, and night, 7 days a week? Culture of caring is about more than board members saying thanks to teachers twice a month. Only successful as a mission sorry, this is where my notes got flustered because I was so just thrown off by the special thanks to the staff at the DO when teachers are hybrid in-person 3rd through 6th grade for the 2nd day today. How about special thanks to all of the teachers who are in person with students in the middle of a pandemic? Our teachers are expected to sweep the above concerns under a rug so they can care for their students while no one is caring for them. Culture of caring is a false narrative. You can only highlight the positives if you are also prioritizing dealing with the negatives, and that is the piece that is not happening. Thank you.
All right, that was our non-agenda public comment. We just had the one, and we will move on to 13A. This is the athletic director update.
Hello.
To Chris. He was going to do an introduction, I believe. Superintendent Costa. There we go.
Yeah, hi, everybody. It's my pleasure to welcome Athletic Director Michelle Smith. We were so lucky to find her and have her be patient while we navigated a pretty complicated and slow hiring process this fall. Michelle comes to us with so much great experience as an athlete herself, as an educator, as an athletic director. And so we're thrilled to have her. She's going to give you a little bit of an update for what athletics looks like so far. She got thrown a bit of a curveball today.
Yep.
In some changing communication planning from CIF. I'm sure she'll touch on that. If not, I can. And so with that, Michelle, we're so pleased to have you. Appreciate everything that you've done through this wacky year. Nice to have you at the helm. And I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you for having me tonight. I'm very excited to be here. I first want to just start off by saying how much I've enjoyed working at both schools. It has been wonderful to work with the administrations and for those people that are on campus who I've had the opportunity to meet. It has been wonderful. So thank you for that. And I even love reconnecting to those families that I had connections with in youth sports or other activities with my kids. So I know I'll continue to connect with more people as we bring kids back on campus and hopefully get these sports going as soon as we can. So thank you for that. I also want to start with just talking about what last year and seasons before us look like, and then we'll get into what it's going to look like this year, just so you guys can see the difference. Usually NCS has 3 seasons of sport: fall beginning in August, winter beginning in November, and spring beginning in February. Obviously, that is a little different this year, which I will get into in a little bit. But just to show you participation numbers from last year, We had an incredible number of athletes participate in both schools in all 3 seasons, and we see the same trend this year. And obviously, even though these numbers are great, we're always trying to increase the numbers and get these students out on the sports fields and play these sports throughout the year. So this year, due to COVID-19, obviously we broke seasons down into 2, fall and spring. That's kind of a little misleading because fall season was supposed to begin on December 7th. And what Superintendent Koska was mentioning is today, CIF sent out a media release saying that fall season practices are on hold until at least January. In the hopes that the Department of Public Health will make an announcement, and they think that announcement will come in January. So at this time, sports will not be beginning on Monday. However, most of you know we've been running sports cohorts the last few months, which have been very successful, and our coaches have volunteered their time to do that. And we hope that our coaches will continue to do that until the regular season starts. And then the spring season, you can see a little discrepancy in number of sports that we have in each. It's really impacted in the spring season, and you'll see that we'll have 4 different sports teams trying to share one field, and it's going to be a little touch and go, and we're going to make sure that we make it fair for all programs and do the best we can for everyone. So once we get to that point, we'll let you know how that goes.
Michelle, can I just, your presentation is not on the screen.
What's that?
Your presentation, it's not up on our screen. So.
Oh, it's not?
No, so I don't know who's responsible for that.
I am. I thought I shared it, but it said, they just disabled me again. That's the problem.
Well, welcome to COVID and Zoom.
I shared it. It looked like it was up, and then I keep getting the disabled.
Okay. Then just keep moving along then. I have a hard copy, and I think some of the
Yes, I've got the soft copy.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep trying to share it as I go through, so attendees can see it, but I do not have access to share it right now. So,
What slide are you on now?
What slide am I on?
Are you on participation data?
Yep, on 5, current registration. And I don't know if Ellen is on, but I know she has my Google Slides. I don't know if she can put it up, but that might be a little difficult at this point. I think I just need to be a co-host, and then I can be able to share my screen if that's possible.
We'll get a couple people working on it, Michelle, while you go.
Okay.
We'll
make it work.
And I've got one.
Anyway, so where I'm at right now is where the current registrations are for 2021 is in the fall season, we have 7 programs, and you can see the numbers were up over 200 people or 200 athletes for both programs. And I only see these numbers increase every week. And we were thinking that those numbers were going to increase until Monday, but now they're going to increase even into January because more and more kids are going to want to come out and play. So those are really good numbers for 7 sports in the fall. Spring, right now, to me, it looks a little low, and that's only because a lot of times kids don't register for those sports until later. So we will push for them to register starting in January, and we'll see where that goes. And I think we just figured it out. Yes?
Look at that.
Look at that. Let's see if I can actually. Can you see it? Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Thank you to whoever did that. All right. As for the facilities update, as you guys know, we were able to install the lights on the Samarin football field last year. We got to use them for one amazing football game where the entire community came out, and we are crossing our fingers and hoping that we will be able to use this field with the lights for both fall and spring season. Because like I said before, when you see 4 teams or 4 programs trying to share a field, in a rainy season, this is our one synthetic field that we have. So being able to use it a little later in the day when the light goes away would be amazing. So we are hoping that that will come into play. We also have a plan to renovate our baseball and softball field. And after talking to Mike Willard, the facility director, he has stated that the baseball field will start in mid-May and the softball field will start in early June. So we hope to have those done for our seasons next year. And obviously, because these will be done during our baseball and softball seasons, I will be looking for other fields to use for those programs and hopefully share a little bit of the Novato fields, which are complete. We have the new synthetic baseball field, new synthetic softball field, the multi-use field, and then obviously our new tennis courts that have been really loved by our student athletes. They've been using them for a couple months now, and they really enjoy being out there. And I cannot tell you, if you have not been out there, they are absolutely gorgeous. So please come out and check them out because they were very well done. So we look forward to using those. Another change due to COVID, MCAL has never allowed students to play more than one sport in one season. And due to the change and the combining of multiple sports in 1 to 2 seasons, they have decided that they will allow student athletes to do this. We are not the first league to do this. There are several conferences that allow students to do this on a regular basis. This is the first time we will be doing it. And as you can see, we have a ton of guidelines that these student athletes have to follow. And it is my responsibility, along with the coaches, to make sure that we hold them accountable to this. The most important is that they have to pick a primary sport. For example, if I'm a baseball, basketball player and baseball is my primary sport, and there's a game for baseball and a game for basketball on the same day, I go to the baseball game. There is no question. Coaches can't talk me into going to basketball. It is very set. So that was really important for the ADs and I think the principals as well, just because we don't want to make it difficult for students to try and choose one sport over the other. So that's why we have them choose a primary sport from the beginning. It is also important to make sure we keep their health at their best. And so they are only allowed to practice and play up to 18 hours per week. So they, are not required to go to both practices every day and basically kill themselves on the field to make sure they make everything. Again, only 4 hours of competition a day or practice a day. Competition counts as 3 hours. Even if your game is only an hour, it counts as 3 hours and you're not allowed to practice in your other sport after that game. Golf is a whole different ball game. Obviously, they are allowed to play 2 18 whole rounds. And so that is nice because obviously, that counts sometimes can be up to 5 hours, but it will count for 4 hours of competition. The CIF timeline, you guys have a different time on that. Like I said, we were supposed to start practices on December 7th. That today was announced by CIF that we have postponed those dates. We do not have a start date, but they hope to have it in January. And the reason is because they want the Department of Public Health to come out with an announcement before we make the decision to move on. The other change from CIF is they've canceled the regional and state playoffs for fall sports. They still have the spring sports scheduled, so only the fall sports have been affected on that. And then the other change is they moved one sport to the spring season, and that is boys volleyball. So again, another impact to that spring season that makes it even more difficult because now we have 6 basketball teams and a boys volleyball team that will have to share the gyms during that season. Here are the coaches' positions that are available and open at this time. It looks like a heavy list for San Marino and Novato, but at the same time, several of these positions we've gone through interviews. We have the candidates in mind that we want to hire. The only 2 programs we don't is boys and girls varsity tennis at San Marin and the boys JV at La Crosse. And that's because those just opened up a few weeks ago and we haven't opened those up. So we hope to open those up in January. But the coaches and the candidates that we have in place right now, we have not been able to hire because with the hiring freeze, we haven't been able to get it to the board to get approved. So we hope to do that in the next month or so. So when fall sports do begin, we can have coaches on schedule and ready to go when that day comes. Currently, these are the cohorts that are going on at both schools. As you can see, we have a really great number of sports that are going on. I'm not sure you guys are aware of this, but coaches volunteer their time to do this, and some are going 5 days a week, some are going 2. It doesn't really matter, but to have these coaches put in the time when they don't need to do it or don't have to do it is incredible. And as an athletic director, I can't tell you how much I appreciate them. They are inspiration to all of us, and I just want to thank them right now because it is difficult, especially to keep these kids' heads in the right place because they don't have an answer of when their season is going to go. So they are keeping it positive and they're getting them out there. And as you know, the number one thing for all of us is the mental health and the physical well-being of our student athletes. And I can't tell you what a great thing these coaches are doing because I know some of these kids come up to me and say, that was the best part of my day. So to have that opportunity, I'm just so thankful. And then last but not least, just because sports aren't going on, that does not mean that great things aren't happening. So if you don't know this, 2 times a year, there is a National Signing Day, and that is for seniors that commit to play a sport in college. We had already in the fall 7 athletes commit to play in college. And for both schools, we had the opportunity to provide a socially distanced celebration. We brought the step and repeat, which many of you probably call it the media, the media sign, which is the logos in the background. We set it up with a table. We gave them a pretend signing letter. We had music playing. Their family was there, and we were able to celebrate their successes. So if you can see the 2 girls on the top in the middle, they will be heading to UC Davis to play lacrosse. The girl in the middle on the bottom will head to UC Davis to do gymnastics. We have the boy on the left, we have going to Chico State for basketball. Under that, Tufts for girls lacrosse. And then we have a boys lacrosse heading to West Point. And we have a softball player going to UCSB. So incredible thing that they had, successes that they've already had and that we'll have going into college. And I can't tell you how fun it was to go to their houses, set this up, see the excitement, and sometimes a little embarrassment because they had no idea what was coming their way, and be able to celebrate this with them. So that was awesome. And thank you to all the volunteers that helped us put this together because I couldn't have done it without you. So with that being said, I'm going to end on that because that's the best thing that's been going on with athletics. And I can't wait to see who we have going in the spring.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm going to bring it back to the board and we'll see if there's any questions or comments. Trustee Miller.
So Michelle, thank you. This has been a challenging year. You've thrown in the middle, sink or swim kind of circumstances, and you're pulling off a really great program that's serving a lot of kids and with a lot of uncertainty, and my hat's off to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Any other comments? All right. Trustee Matt.
Thanks, Michelle. Just a quick question. I just noticed in the numbers, and it seems like this is an ongoing thing, and there probably isn't an answer, but just noticing that kind of the per capita participation rate between the 2 schools just seems to be different. I don't know if you have any kind of initial answer. I have some ideas, but any thoughts on that, or is it something that maybe we could just kind of try to better understand down the road?
I'm actually still trying to learn about that because, not having the students on campus and being able to ask, hey, why aren't you out there is really difficult. So we've tried to reach out a little bit here and there and figure out, what's going on, why are we not playing? And some of it could be numbers on dual and 3-sport athletes as well, because those numbers increase. But when you get older in the junior, senior year, those numbers come down. So I'll do some more research on that and see if I can get some answers on why those numbers are so different. But at this point, I do not have those answers for you.
I have a lot better understanding than, so got it.
All right, so I will take no other comments. Thank you, Michelle, very much. I know not welcome to Nevada, but welcome to NUSD for joining our team and providing this report this evening. You did a great job, and we were hoping to have a gameplay back in December, but obviously that's not the case, and we'll just kind of weigh it out and see what happens. Keep us posted. If you need to provide any information regarding athletics to the board, please do so, and keep us up to date. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to, this is 13B. Staff report, continuing certificated staff retention data. This is for the previous school year, 2019-2020. And Jonathan Ferrer will be joining us to present this item this evening.
Thank you, President Butler. Good evening, trustees. Jonathan Ferrer, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources for the district. Just want to confirm you are able to see the slideshow on my screen.
Yes.
Fantastic. So this is our annual report for certificated staff retention data. This report includes all certificated staff with the exception of certificated management and administrators. So this includes our classroom teachers, resource specialists, speech language pathologists, psychologists, counselors, deans, program specialists, and school nurses. Just giving some context on why this is important. We obviously, as a district, invest significant resources in our training in terms of professional development, in terms of induction through the credentialing process. This is key to our success, being able to monitor the resources we are providing our teachers and how it actually plays out in terms of our ability to retain them year to year. We also analyze this data because it takes time to learn how to teach for our teachers and how a system works. So we believe that the longer our certificated employees are here, they are more attuned to the vision of the district and how to successfully teach within the organization of our district. We also believe that certificated staff retention increases our consistency and improves outcome for our scholars. So the longer we have teachers here in our district, the more relationships they are able to build with our certificated employees, which would hopefully further their success while they are here with us in the district and any post-secondary work they do after they leave us. We also focus on this retention data because we continue to be a teacher shortage in the state and across the country, particularly in certain credential areas. So we monitor this data to see if we are continuing to struggle in this area or if we are making some growth in being able to retain our teachers. So this is the certificated staff retention data from school year 2019 through 2020, highlighted at the bottom in yellow, as well as the previous data that we have collected since the 2012-2013 school year. So as you can see at the bottom, for last school year, we had a total of 441 certificated employees. 31 of those employees resigned from the district. 21 of them retired from the district. So a total number of 52 separations for 2019-2020. This represents about a 7% resignation rate and a 12% retirement and resignation rate combined. You can see we have actually made some improvement in terms of the percentage of certificated staff who are resigning from the district. Although we would love to see this number to as close to zero as possible. Since 2017-2018 school year, we've seen a reduction of about 5% in the number of employees who are resigning from the district. One other interesting note here, which should not be a surprise due to the pandemic, is that we had a significantly larger amount of certificated staff who retired from the district. So from 2018-2019, we had 8 retirees. And last year, 2019, 2020, we had 21 retirees in the district. But overall, we are pretty consistent in terms of being below the average percent of resignations throughout these 8 years that we've collected this data. And we are on par as we were last year in terms of the total percentage of retirements and resignations from the district. You can see there our average across this span is 8.6% for the percent resigned and 11.5% for the percent retired and resigned. So the average for resignations in the 8 years has been between 6 to 13%. We're averaging 8.6 right now. And retirement and resignation data combined fluctuated between 8 to 15% for an average of 11.5. So for last school year, we are below the average at 7% for resignation. And for retirement and resignation combined, we are slightly above average at 12%. Part of our analysis also asks our employees who separated, our certificated employees who separated from the district, to complete an exit survey. Now, an exit survey is not contingent on separating from the district, so we actually hope that all of our employees who separate from us complete the survey. Unfortunately, for this past school year, we had, again, a total of 52 separations, but we only had 18 respondents to our exit survey, which represents roughly 35% of that group. This survey has been done through Google Survey. We then transition to SurveyMonkey, asking specific questions, which I will go over shortly, both for retirees as well as for those who are resigning from the district. Again, this participation in the exit survey has increased to 52% in 2018, 2019, but for 2019, 2020, it has decreased to 35%. So we will continue to push for completion of the exit survey for our employees who will need to separate from the district to hopefully get that participation number up close to 100% to give us a better, accurate picture of the data. So the first question on our exit survey is we ask for the reason for their separation. So you can see here of the 18 respondents, basically split in terms of resignation and retirement. We had an outlier there for other. That might have been a misunderstanding of the question. But again, kind of split here for resignations and retirements. We also asked them for their length of service to the district. So on the left-hand column, for those that resigned, which 8 of them completed this section of the survey, you can see about half of those who replied were with the district just for 1 year. And then you have folks anywhere between 3 to 16 to 20 years sprinkled through there. On the right-hand side are the responses from those who retired from the district, 8 total responses. And you can see there roughly 87%, almost 90% of those who retired of the 8 answered that they were with the district for 16 or more years past 20. So a significant amount of folks who have retiring who have provided a significant service to the district. We also asked them the reasons for separation. We use this data to identify areas of growth for us and how we can improve with retention. So on the left-hand side of the 8 resignations who completed this survey, the top 5 responses for reasons for separation are to continue education, for health problems, relocation, dissatisfaction with supervisor, stress of job, workload, dislike for duties, and lack of opportunity. On the right-hand side, the reasons for the top 5 reasons for those who retired, again, 7 responses. The top 5 were for safety, stress of job, lack of opportunity, retirement, workload, and health problem. So this obviously captures a trend with the pandemic in terms of health problems for both resignations and retirements. So that is definitely something we can confirm there. The other areas, of course, we can continue to improve on and look on how we can improve on those reasons for separation. We've also asked them to best describe what their future employment will be. There were only 8 individuals who responded to this question who resigned. You can see it's kind of across the board here. 2 of them have selected a different position in education outside of the county. And we have a couple of outlier individuals who are accepting a position in another district in the county and a similar position outside of the county. A couple of them declined to discuss their plans, and a couple of them had marked other in terms of their future employment. We also asked them if they would recommend employment with NUSD to a friend. On the left-hand side, for those who resigned, 7 answered, 4 of them said no, 3% said yes. On the right-hand side, for the 8 individuals who responded who retired, it was split 50-50, whether they would recommend NUSD to a friend for employment. We also do ask some other questions that really drill down to personal response. These responses will not be shared in this presentation to protect responder anonymity, but we do ask questions as like, of what should Novato Unified School District be proudest? What is the biggest challenge facing Novato Unified School District? Is there anything else you would like to add? So we do review these responses, and we look for any trends that we see across the board in these responses, or if there is direct information that is provided to us, it allows us human resources to follow up with any issues or challenges that we feel that we need to address to help the retention of our certificated staff. We also ask at which school did you last work, and if they would like to provide us their name. Most individuals do not, as the exit survey can reveal a lot of information that we are actually trying to seek from the respondents. So where do we go from here? Obviously, we can't eliminate all the reasons for certificated attrition, but we can work on the issues that are in front of us. We can take a look at the data that's presented to us. We could look at the reasons for separation and work on a plan on how do we best serve the needs so we can curtail the retention, increase the retention rate for our certificated employees. Obviously, understanding how we can do better day to day, hearing from our employees through different outlets, venues, is obviously what we strive for the most, because that allows us to hear from employees who are presently here with the district. So hearing from them as best we can helps inform our best practices to move forward to support them. So where do we go from here? We obviously need to understand that past employee perspectives matter. Whether it's a trend or whether it's an isolated incident, we need to address those things. We also need to understand that current employee perspectives matter more with our day-to-day interactions from employees, whether it's in meetings or negotiations or listening circles, capturing that information and data to help inform our work. We must support our current certificated staff. They are the ones who are on the front lines delivering the instruction to our students and working directly with our families. So supporting them in their needs to become successful, more successful, and to be with the district for a long term is what we strive for. And we obviously continue to look for and into tools to help better understand different employee perspectives, how we can capture how folks are feeling in our district. That wraps up the presentation. I am more than happy to listen to any feedback or address any questions at this time.
Thank you, Jonathan. I'll bring it back to the board. Trustee Cooper?
Hi, Jonathan. Thank you very much for the report. Just a quick question about the other questions, next to the last page. Did you get any, and I know you can't share these with us, but did you get in like an aha moment from any of the responses, like, oh, that's enlightening, or tell me a little bit about it without giving specifics?
Yes, so there was not any, Trustee Cooper, any kind of systemic issues that I saw from those feedback questions. There were a couple of isolated comments that kind of raised my brow just a little bit, something that we Human Resources could look into. Trustees, as the leaders of the district, those comments have been shared with you as well. So if you'd like to take a look at those questions and circle back with me on anything that you might be concerned with that the district should follow up on, please let me know. But I will make sure that if those haven't been shared with you already, I will share those with you in my next update.
Well, thank you.
Any other trustees? Trustee Jackson.
So actually, that was originally my question, but I was also curious if you compiled the responses like with prior years to see if there's, I've got to be honest, I mean, while it was only, I think it was 8 people that responded, that 50% would recommend working here. I mean, that, it's disappointing, obviously. So it led me to, how do we look like, what was it last year? So I would assume or hope that you're keeping a track of what comments were from the prior year to see if there's any theme or potential area that we should be focusing on. And I know you guys do try to get creative in what we're offering, what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Trustee Gassett, we are able to do that. So when I get this data every year, I take a look at the past kind of responses. And again, I look for kind of those trends or anything that is an outlier. Again, in this specific, in my quick review and analysis of this data, the thing that stood out the most for us, that is no surprise, is we had more retirees this past school year and more concerns about health and their own wellness as employees. So obviously, we are all working hard as a district to try to address that. So we hope to make that shift for this school year and improve that data point. But yes, we are able to go back to compare the comments and the data year to year to see if there's anything that's outstanding that needs to be addressed.
Thank you. Okay, Trustee Mack.
Thanks, Jonathan. Good report. And I'm hoping that we can continue doing this on an annual basis. So this is good information for us to have and a plan going forward. On slide 3, the one that just shows all the numbers, and it's interesting, I was just doing some math, and one interesting column that might be useful next time is number of hires required to go into the next year. And I can see that going to 19 to 20, if I do the math right, we had to hire 64 to get from 421 to 441 after losing, well, actually more than that, I forgot the 8. So, so what, 73. But anyway, that would be useful information for us to see the hiring activity that's necessary each year to meet our goals. And what would also be useful, and I don't know to what extent we can share this to the public, your call, of course, but how do we meet that? And so 73, were they all first-year teachers? Probably not. We probably hired in some higher, steps and columns, whatever, just to better understand what we're doing. And it kind of impacts our numbers in a dollar perspective. So anyway, just a thought.
Yep, thank you for that feedback. That's something definitely we could do and track down.
All right, anybody else? No further comments from the board. Do we have any public comment? No public comment for this item. Thank you, Jonathan, for continuing to provide this information each year to the board.
Thank you, trustees.
All right. Moving on to, this is item 13C. This is our still staff report, school resource officers, otherwise known as SROs. It's an update. Superintendent Koska will be presenting this. It's just sharing the plan that staff will implement to analyze our SRO program.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
There we go. All right, so this is a critically important topic in our society today about our school resource officers on our campuses. This program that we restarted in around 2018, and due to a lot of questions asked by our community members, we're committed to reviewing this school resource officer program. And so today, what I want to do is outline the plan that we intend to implement in order to conduct this review. So the object of the plan is to make sure that we develop a thoughtful and a respectful plan that's broad-based and gives our community an opportunity to provide input into the program. and that we use the information that we receive from the community to help inform a future board decision on the SRO program. There is a lot of data out there that's typically nationwide data or statewide data that demonstrates that SRO programs have negative impacts for our what we call BIPOC students, Black, Indigenous, and people of color students. That data talks about higher suspension rates for our BIPOC students and higher arrest rates for our BIPOC students. This is often attributed to school resource officers being on campus. And I can say that some of that data does show up in our suspension data in Novato. I do have to say that there is a bit of a misnomer here around attributing suspension rates to school resource officers, as school resource officers don't have the authority to suspend students. Only school administrators have the authority to suspend students. Regardless of that, we do have a problem with our suspension rates here in Novato. Our suspension rates for our African American students is higher than our average. About 8.8% of our African American students were suspended during the 18-19 school year. And during that time, about 3.5% of our Hispanic, Latino, I apologize for the typo there, students were suspended. And at the same time, about 2.5% of our white students were suspended. In the last couple of years, we've seen a decrease in the suspensions, but the reality is we still have a long ways to go. Our African American students have seen a reduction of 1.7%, while our other students, that's all those other groups together, have seen a decrease of about 0.4%. So a little bit of history of the program since it restarted. As I shared before, it restarted in 2018. The whole program consists of 2 full-time officers. Those officers serve the 13 schools, but primarily one of them is at Novato High School and one of them is at San Marin High School. Since 2000, in the first year of the program, both officers were funded through the Novato Police Department. In the second year of the program, NUSD was to take on the cost of the second officer. In that year, we received a grant through the Department of Justice. And in each of the subsequent years, the only 2 years that we've been responsible for funding the SRO program, we fully funded the district portion of the program through the grant. And the cost is approximately $157,000 for the one officer. So that's the total district contribution. It's $157,000, and that all comes from this Department of Justice grant. So the program has many goals. These were the goals that were in place when we decided to start this program back up. One of them is to build rapport between students and our school resource officers. Another was to forge relationships through our officers being more approachable than other police officers, for the officers to become a resource for question and advice to help develop positive roles, to keep our schools safe in the event of school violence, and to work with teachers, parents, and staff to share responses for crafting solutions to problems other than arrests and citations, and that typically looks like restorative justice in our campuses. So why are we having this discussion tonight? We acknowledge that our school resource officers programs across the state and locally and in Novato have become a flashpoint for discussions of racial justice. We want to make sure that we thoughtfully examine our program with our students, our staff, and our community to see what's working and what isn't working. And then, and to do this with a multiple-pronged approach. We feel like it's essential that we hear the perspectives of our high school students. There's a lot of information out there that is accurate. What we find is that this is a very, very, it's a controversial topic, and there's a lot of of stress in the community around this. We want to make sure that we get it right. We want to make sure that our students understand students that have been marginalized by the police. We want to make sure that they have a voice. Students that haven't been marginalized by the police, we want to make sure that they understand what their fellow students on campus are feeling when they're in that sort of situation. Students whose parents are police officers want to make sure they have the chance to share their perspective on what it feels like to be so closely associated with law enforcement. So we're going to work with our educators in this educational institution to develop a short learning unit that presents multiple perspectives regarding school resource officers. And at the conclusion of the short unit, teachers will work with the students to get input about their experiences with our SRO program and their thoughts on the program moving forward. Additionally, we're going to hold community circles. These are not scheduled. We've not developed exactly what the structure is going to look like. But one of the community circles will be with members of the community equity team. That's a team that exists within our high schools, other community members, and the Novato Police Department. The other will be NUSD high school staff and the Novato Police Department. So the goals of the community circle will be to provide an opportunity for participants to hear differing perspectives, to share their perspectives, to gain a better understanding of the complexity of this topic, and to gain a better understanding of those with differing perspectives. And so the outcome will be feedback that we gain from this approach, and that will be shared with the board. The current schedule is to share that on March 16th. And at that time, staff will bring a recommendation regarding the school officer program to the board on March 16th. That'll be based on the feedback that we've received from the community. With that, I ask if the board has any questions.
All right, board members. Thank you, Superintendent Koska, Trustee Nell, and then Trustee Knapp.
I was wondering if you could give us a little more background on the grant application itself. I understand we received the funds from the California Department of Justice, and I assume we applied for the purpose of funding our portion of SROs, but I know we approved it. But if you could resurface that grant application and some more information around what the grant purpose is.
Yeah, happy to share some information with you. I was one of the people that work primarily on that grant with Leslie Benjamin. The grant is funded through the Department of Justice. The primary goal is to decrease tobacco use and vaping on campuses. And so that is primarily the purpose of the grant.
Are there limits to the applicants for this grant? I mean, do they have to be LEAs, or can they be private nonprofit organizations? Do you have the answers to that information?
I'm not sure. I know that the police department could have also applied for the grant. We did so in partnership with them. I'm not sure if other nonprofits could apply for the grant.
Thank you.
Trustee Knapp?
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate the process. You're putting this there. It's very thoughtful, and it's an important time for us to be doing this for obvious reasons. Just a couple quick questions for clarification for me. You reference a unit. Can you elaborate what you mean by a unit with the students?
The unit would be a series of lessons by teachers in the different high schools. The 3 different high schools all have different ideas for exactly how they will, exactly which students they will teach it to. We want to make sure that we're capturing different groups of kids. The current idea is that at one of the schools, it would be taught in the science department. In one of the schools, it would be taught in the social sciences department. They would be teaching it at different grade levels. The unit would have a couple of lessons, but for the most part, they would be exposing students to different perspectives on school resource officers through different media forms. Some could be through, like newspaper articles or research articles. Others could be through videos and things like that. But exposing them to different media from the different perspectives around SROs, having deep, rich conversations about experiences associated with those resources, and then giving students opportunities to share their perspectives on their experiences that they've had with SROs in specific and law enforcement in general.
Okay, got it. And to be clear, this would be a subset of students, not all students.
Correct. This would be subsets of students at the different high schools.
And criteria to be developed, but with a focus on representing the population of the campus and community?
Yeah.
Okay. I know it's kind of TBD, so I would love to better understand that as we get further into it. I understand you're working on that. So the other question I got is the community team on reference. The community equity. Can you talk a little bit about that? I think I understand it, but I think this is a bit just for me to make sure everybody else understands it.
Yeah, it's a bit vague. At San Marin High School over the summer, there were some racially related incidences that happened off campus and away from school, but they had an impact on school. And so the administrative team got together with the students that were impacted by those incidences, worked closely with the students to better understand what happened, try to track down the perpetrators of the different situations. And that team that I mentioned is a group of parents whose children were involved in those incidences. And that group of parents has come together to become a voice for supporting our equity efforts at San Marin High School. So they will be a part of the community circle, but certainly not all of it.
The idea, I guess, would be to expand that to include the Novato community as well, somehow.
Yeah, and the community in general, yeah.
Yeah, and Morenos, I guess, as well. And then just a small question. Obviously, COVID, no one's on campus. So what are officers doing now? They're just kind of blended back into the force for the time being?
Each week, one officer is back on patrol currently, and the other officer is continuing to support as a school resource officer with doing a variety of different things as needed, and that rotates each week. Which one's in which capacity?
Just, if I could.
Yeah.
I spoke with one of the officers, Officer Rodriguez from Nevada, and it's funny because I brought that up. I said, well, what are we doing with your time? And he's doing a lot of home visits and people that, truancy issues and that kind of thing. So it sounds like they're staying busy and helping us.
Thank you.
Trustee Mark?
So Chris, your slide presentation was interesting. What I note is the data you presented, which is suspensions and expulsions, reflects on our staff's behavior and our judgment's behavior. But we're having a conversation about SROs and how we interface with the police department. I think the interface with the police and the police force and their participation in helping raise children in this town is important. But your data points back to us.
Right.
It doesn't. We have apparently the same hard work that we have to do today that we should have been working on for multiple years. Clearly, we're not making an inroad at the level we need to, and I'm thrilled for the study and I'm thrilled for the review, but it's this needs to be more self-inspective, respective. So that's the first point. The second point.
Can I address the first point before we move on to the second point?
Okay.
Just know that in each of our administrative team meetings last year, this was one of the key topics that we talked about, was suspensions and decreasing those rates of suspensions and what specific actions each school was going to take to make sure that they were doing that. So just know that in the 1920 data, which we don't have available to us yet on Ed Data, that was something we actively worked on.
But historically, we've had CPONs and other organizations that have helped us look at this. We've had a lieutenant in the Nevada Police Department that was instrumental in helping us understand this better 10 years ago, and it seems like maybe we've lost a little bit of that focus. Well, we've gained in other areas. But I want to change the focus of this a little bit, as opposed to looking for what we're doing wrong. I would like to change the description of what we're trying to do. And so I'm going to throw out a straw man for you to think about. Our job as educators is to teach young people to grow up and be part of a society and live within that society. And clearly, in this case, we're missing the mark in some way. But growing up isn't just not getting suspended. It's learning how to deal in a society where there's forces at play, and they're big and they're powerful. And if you look at the national politics today, you'll see some are, they're large forces in the society. And that goes to everything from learning to not just get expelled, to learning to deal with when you get pulled over when you shouldn't have been pulled over driving a car, to not being able to get a financing on your house because there's financial instruments built in place for red line districts. There's a whole range of tools that we don't teach our students on how to look out for and protect. So a good friend of mine's a Latino, he's Cuban. And when he buys a car, I sat with him as he bought a car, he made it sure that the dealership did not know he was a Spanish-speaking Latino, because he said it costs him 2% more on his interest rates when they figure out that he's a Spanish-speaking person. And so he basically does all his dealing on email. He never talks to them. And when he finally buys the car, he rolls in with his financing in place and gets a rate, the same rate that anybody without a bias would get. Those kinds of instruments and tools are something we should be teaching our students so they can participate fully no matter what their family background is. And we don't do that, I don't think. So I want to throw you a big job, probably bigger than this district can achieve, but it's bigger than just not getting expelled or suspended. And I think we have hard work to do, and I would love to participate in that work.
Thank you.
I'll turn it to Trustee Cooper, and then I have Trustee Avila.
And Ava has something too.
Let's say it again.
And Ava has something also.
Oh, okay.
Eva, yeah, okay, thank you.
Eva, do you want to go first? Go ahead.
I'll go. I think it's really important that this topic is being spoken about at the board meetings. It's something that affects a lot of people, a lot more than many people even realize. I want to go into this by saying that there's goals that were put in place when the SROs were brought back to campuses, but those goals sometimes don't reflect the reality of what's happening. And when you look at the data, I know that it doesn't directly reflect SROs, but more of the administration. 8.8% and 3.5% of African-American communities students and Hispanic and Latino students. If you look at the population of those groups of students in our schools, that's a large amount of people. And I just think that, personally, criminalizing kids where they're at their place of education, where they should feel safe and free, it's not necessarily the best feeling. And then I had a quick question. Is there any thoughts about bringing in more community members and or organizations into the community circles? And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And yes, we're open to where it says other community members, that's what we mean. We've got to be mindful of how many people we can successfully have in any one group and have it be successful, but we're working on exactly what that looks like. And have you worked with Phoebe Smith at all, Ava?
I have not.
Okay, Phoebe is somebody who's trained to do that work. She's really good at it. She's really passionate about this topic and all of our students and about restorative justice. And so she would be the person that would be moderating those groups.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva.
So I just wanted to, thanks Eva. I just wanted to start with, I'm sorry I'm not going to be here on March 16th because I definitely find this to be a very, very important topic and I'm totally supportive of it. Now you know how I feel. I have a question and a comment. The length of the grant, is that just year to year? You apply for it, you get it 1 year, you apply for it, you get another? How does that work?
It's usually 2 to 2.5 years, depending on when the grant cycle starts and ends.
We have another year after 2021.
And we have reapplied. We're waiting to find out the results of that grant application.
And then finally, my just comment, we've all been receiving, I don't know, seems like thousands of emails about this important topic. And I'm just very glad that you've clarified that the suspensions, because those are brought up in many of the emails, that this district is responsible for any suspensions and not the SROs directly. So I just want to make that point.
Okay. Thank you, Trustee Cooper. Trustee
And we acknowledge that we have work to do there with certainty.
Indeed.
So thank you for bringing this forward. We have gotten a lot of emails, a lot in favor of SROs and some in favor of against it. So I just wanted to thank you for some of this clarity. I wanted to ask you, and I think I know the answer, but are there any suspensions or expulsions that doesn't go through the board? Because I know we go through them and the board is the one that decides. But I'm wondering, are there any suspensions that don't come to us?
So there are no expulsions that don't go to the board, and no, to my knowledge, no suspensions go to the board. So the board sees any expulsion and has to approve that or disregard that, but the board does not see suspensions.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clear that. So all the suspensions that we've approved or disapproved, and all the information that we got, we know why they're in that situation, and I just wanted to just let the community remind the community also that we're the ones that do it, not SROs. Okay, and so March 16th, then we'll have more information that will come forward regarding input.
Yeah, so on March 16th, we will share the information received from all the different community groups that we work with, and we will make a recommendation to keep the SRO program as it is, to eliminate the SRO program, or to make some changes to the SRO program.
Okay, and then I have a last question, if that's okay. So having, psychology background, I wanted to know as far as with counseling, are we, when the SROs come, what roles do the counseling have, or do they, counselors?
So the counselors provide, depending upon the situation, if you're talking about our mental health counselors, they provide either a small group or one-to-one counseling, depending upon the situation. And we have mental health counselors on each of our campuses.
That's great. And so, so the school, the district is the one that decides, or the officers are the ones that decide if they need, the students need to get some counseling services? So who?
I'm sorry, say that again.
So who would decide, I know it's probably depending on the situation, but who would decide? Is it the school district or the SROs that would decide to give the students counseling services before anything?
But any agreement to do any counseling services would be a partnership between the mental health provider and the parent and the child. The SROs would not play a role in that.
So glad to know that we're utilizing them.
Thank you.
All right, trustee Grasson and then trustee Mack, and then I'm going to open it to public comment.
Okay, I would say you can do that first.
Go ahead.
So touching on a lot of different elements that have already been talked about, one of the things I had asked Superintendent Koska was specific to those percentages. So I think it's hard to appreciate or understand, and I think you had mentioned about how many kids that is. So, having those numbers, what is the, how many kids does that actually represent?
So I could touch on that. So between 2015 and 2019, we had anywhere between the low number of students suspended out of our 7,500 to 7,800 students. The lowest number we had suspended was 204. And the highest number we had during that time was 266. And in 2019, we were kind of right in the middle with 233. When we talk about the suspended African American students, that 17 students, the 3.5% of Hispanic Latino students represents 106 students, and the 2.5% of white students equals 90 students. So I hope that gives a little context.
It does, because we don't get to see those, and so it's hard to know. I know we're constantly trying to improve that, but no point of reference for what those numbers are. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I know I was not on a roll, and thank you for having that ready for me. I didn't know you had it. So I think one of the things I would like to see is we talk to or have these sessions with the community and with students. So what I'd like to have, I can imagine it would be hard if you feel that if you're a student and you have certain opinions, you might not want to be sharing them in a setting, because it might have something that affected you, or and you're not willing to share. So if there was going to be an opportunity to have like a they used to have those boxes that you can just put in your thoughts or something. If we could utilize something like that as we go through this process, I think that might help at least get more voice and understanding how students are feeling and their perceptions. That might be a consideration. And then I know it's probably the intent of what we're doing, but I don't see it specifically stated. That I believe and I understand the perception that the SROs are the focus is on having SROs on campus, but I think as we've been discussing that there's more of an issue with internally with what we're doing. And so I'd like to see whatever this discussion goes or how it goes is that if there's a focus on what do we do to make this better. And so, taking this scenario and finding actual solutions or suggestions for how to improve rather than just flat out, no, we shouldn't have SROs or, I'd like to see, again, I'm sure it's the intent, but I didn't see it specified in here that the outcome would be, what could we do? What are the solutions that we could do to make, this a better relationship and benefit for our kids and community? The other thing which I've noticed, and I know what I was going to say after you gave me those numbers that I wasn't expecting. When we talk about suspensions, and I think for me, having a middle schooler, I know that there's a lot more visibility with the SROs being at the high school. I know that they do go to the middle school as well, but when we're talking about these percentages, if we can make sure we're clear, I assume that these suspensions include middle school, not just high school, is that correct?
K-12.
Okay, through 12, okay. So there's also that element. So if you're factoring, that's actually even something more significant. If you're attributing the suspensions to SROs, but they're not at the elementary or middle schools as much, if you see what I'm saying. So I think that would also be a piece. If you're going to define suspension rates equate to having SROs or not, then we need to understand where these numbers are coming from.
Mhm.
So that was just a point of context. And I think that's it.
I just want to touch on suspensions. I'm glad that folks have differentiated that, because that's absolutely the case, that is something that's controlled by us. And if I'm not mistaken, it's part of our report card every single year, number of suspensions. And it's been something we've been working on for a long time. They're down, not down enough, but I think it would be interesting, and Chris, maybe you can touch on this as part of the March 16th report, on the downward trend of suspensions that were happening, that have happened since 2018 and even before that, because I know we've been working on a long time. Just so everybody knows out there, this is part of our Department of Ed scorecard we get every year, how many suspensions we dole out. And obviously it's something we're trying to reduce, ideally eliminate. So that's one thing. The other thing is, and Ross started this, and I agree, absolutely. Tom touched on it, and as well, Eva, big time, touched on this. There's a bigger issue here. SROs are one thing, obviously, and we obviously need to focus on that, understand the pros and cons. But we have a bigger issue here that reared its ugly head at San Marin this year, unfortunately, in a bad way. And while Ross, I understand what you're saying about teaching, your friend who's going to car dealership and all that kind of stuff. What we really need to focus on is flipping that script. We're going to focus on teaching kids like my kids. Now, they might be half Mexican, but they look white. They might as well be white. I'm white. We need to understand, how it is that this happens and we let it happen. And to teach that it's entitlement. We need to teach what entitlement means. And I know, Chris, that's a passion of yours. I know you want to do it. I'd like to see if we can start formalizing this in parallel with this discussion or as a result of this discussion. Because I think the passion we're seeing in all these emails, especially on the no side, is less about SROs and more about that issue. And that's what I think we can do a much better service to our community by addressing that issue, addressing entitlement and understanding it and teaching it to our kids how it's not just made up, it's real.
Yeah.
Quick anecdote, reading today, woman getting her house appraised in Marin City. She got $500,000 more appraisal value because she took down all the pictures. It was an African-American woman and put up white pictures. That's just an example. It's real, folks. And our kids need to understand that, to Ross's point and to Ava's point. So that's my speech. So, but Chris, if we could do that, I think it's time.
Yeah. Thanks. We'll know that parallel to this, and then we'll let Eva talk again. Parallel to this, we are working closely with our other high school districts and Marin County Office of Education on ethnic studies courses that we intend to offer at our high schools in the future to help with some of the things that you're talking about. There's no one silver bullet to this. An ethnic studies course isn't it, but it's another important step in the right direction that we're actively working on right now. Okay, Eva.
I just wanted to add one last quick little point. I know that you're getting a whole lot of emails from parents and adults, and I think that it is so, so crucial to get the opinions and the voices of the people who it directly impacts, the students and the BIPOC voices. They're the voices that need to be amplified. I'm not saying that we shouldn't listen to people who are in favor of SRO. Like, I'm personally not in favor of SROs, but I'm not saying that we should shut down any other opinions, but it's just that we need to especially listen to the people that are being affected directly. That's my spiel.
I appreciate that.
Can you guys wait when we'll do public comment? I'd like to get that. So we have about 14 community members who'd like to speak. That puts us over our 20-minute limit, but this is obviously an important topic to this system. So I would like to go ahead and listen to those 14. Are we okay with 3 minutes? We can we're here for a little bit then. We can also narrow that down to just 2 minutes per speaker. Okay? Yeah, go ahead.
I think changing the timing at the last minute is not a good idea.
That's a hard one, I understand.
So I will take the time to sit here
Okay.
for me.
I'm fine.
Okay. So we'll do 3 minutes for each speaker.
Of the 14.
Of the 14.
Yeah, I'm concerned we're going to see them add on.
Yeah.
So,
You now have 3 more raising your hand.
You are right.
And
Yeah, I think so. That brings us, just a lot.
so 20 would be 60
We'll do
minutes.
45 minutes of public comment. Okay.
At 3 minutes each.
At 3 minutes each.
Can we also, like you normally do, like if you've already heard your point
Yeah.
be made?
That's a good point. And I've said this on previous board meetings. If you feel your point has already been made, you can just send a message to our moderator in the chat and just say, I do not need to speak. My point was made. That's helpful to allow other people to speak. If there's a group of you that are trying to get it's the same thing with a group, trying to get the same message to the board. If you could have one speaker of that group, that's helpful also. This broadens the conversation and the public comment is that way. So just send a chat if you feel like your comment's been spoken, and we can skip over you and move on to the next person. So, all right, 45 minutes, 3 minutes each. We'll go from there. And we'll bring it back to the board.
All right.
We're not making any decisions tonight.
No.
Yeah, this is not a
Process.
discussion action. This is about the process that we'll be using going forward.
It's the beginning of the conversation.
Good evening, trustees. My name is Ross Ingalls. I am a parent of a Novato High School senior and a Novato Middle School 8th grader. In the middle of a global pandemic, when we should be trying to figure out what's the best way to safely teach our kids in the classroom or remotely, I'm disappointed that we're here having a conversation about school resource officers. As you guys have already stated, school resource officer program began here in Novato in about 2018, and there has been zero cost incurred by the district since that started. According to your own board report tonight, prepared by district staff, the first year of SROs was fully funded by the Novato Police Department, and now it's funded 50% by a grant and 50% by the police department. And the fact that we're spending all this time discussing and evaluating a free program that has enormous safety benefits to our students is quite a bit upsetting. Considering that we tuned in tonight for a school resource officer discussion item, I'm shocked at all of the discussion that had to do with suspensions. At your own agenda item, to quote it right here, states school resource officers do not have the authority to suspend or expel students. Only school administrators can expel a student. Only school administrators and teachers on rare occasions can suspend a child. So to open up with a bunch of data about suspensions that has nothing to do with school resource officers on a school resource officer agenda item is a little confusing. It confuses the public. It confuses your students. It confuses other people that are listening, and it gets you guys a little bit off topic about what problem you're trying to solve. If you're trying to solve a school resource officer problem, stick to school resource officers issues and not suspension issues. As you guys, a couple of you have mentioned, suspension issues are in-house. That has nothing to do with school resource officers or campus safety, which is what school resource officers are there for. In preparing my comments tonight, like I said, I read the staff's report and did considerable research on school resource officers. I also researched open source social media sites like Facebook and Instagram and found pages based outside of Novato that appear to have turned their attention and focus on the NUSD and our school resource officer program. These sites are encouraging members to protest this board and to quote unquote crash the Zoom for tonight's meeting. While I'm disappointed that we're having this conversation, I totally understand why you're doing it. During this process, though, I ask that you listen to only Novato local voices and listen to only Novato parents and students and look at only local data and statistics. Novato is not LA, we're not San Francisco, we're not Oakland, and we're not San Rafael. Please do what's best for Novato and our kids and our school district when making your final decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Heidi Merchant, and I am the parent of a sophomore at San Marin High School. I really appreciate the conversation tonight. Ava, I really want to thank you for your courage in stepping up. I think that this is a really important topic. I graduated from High School 1327 in 1990, and Novato then had a reputation for being racist. And unfortunately, 30 years later, we still have that reputation. I believe that all of our schools should be places where every student feels safe, feels like they belong, and has the opportunity to reach their full potential. And what we've seen in the data is that BIPOC students don't feel safe with SROs on campus. I don't think that it's a separate issue. I think our issue is we need to improve school culture. So looking at suspension and expulsion rates is something we also need to do. Looking at removing SROs is something we need to do. Looking at inclusive curriculum that includes the voices of BIPOC leaders and people is important. I think what a lot of us would like to see is data related to SROs. When we look nationally, we see that BIPOC students are impacted inequitably by having police on campus. And so we would like to see what the arrests, contacts, citations, and referrals to probation look like from our SROs on campus in Novato. I'm sure that you have to track that data for the grants. And in response to the last speaker, the goals didn't say it was they're on campus to stop kids from vaping and using tobacco products. It's not safety. And as many of you know, at Parkland and Columbine, there were police officers on campus who were unable and ineffective to stop those tragedies from happening. So they kind of give us a false sense of security there. I like the conversation. I hope we continue it. I really feel like they don't need to be on campus. They can be called like they're called anywhere else if there's something that warrants that. I want our students to be students and be free to be themselves and not be suspects or policed on campus. I don't know how anyone can reach their full potential when that's happening. So I look forward to the conversations. I also want to amplify what Eva said about listening to the most marginalized people, because if we let the white voices be the strong voices, police were created to protect white people. Policing in the United States began as a way to return enslaved people to their owners. So there is racism baked into the institution of policing. And if we don't acknowledge that and we don't work to fix that, who are we and how are we going to reach that beloved community? So thank you very much. And I look forward to this process and to making changes that support all of our students in Novato. Thank you.
Madam President, we need to figure out a way to cut people off in 3 minutes or keep the, I appreciate the comments, but we have, it's going to be an hour listening to the comments.
Are they able to hear me if I interrupt? Okay.
They can hear you, but you'll have to speak louder.
Speak louder, okay.
Can you?
So to our community who is going to be speaking, please stick to 3 minutes, and I will ask you to wrap up once if you've got the 3 minutes, I'll ask you to finish your sentence, and then we'll move on to the next speaker.
Do you know, I know it's a little bit funny, but do you want one of the flags? Because I think that people are having a hard time seeing us.
Yes, hard to see.
So at the end of 3
Like at
minutes.
the end, you could wave a flag, or somebody could make a
Yeah.
voice and wave.
Up to you.
I don't know, I can't log into YouTube, so I can't see what people are saying.
Oh, or Jennifer can just say, all right, you read, yeah.
Yeah, 3 minutes.
I think we
and-
just do that.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what the city does.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And the board of supervisors.
With
doesn't say
respect, but we got an hour's worth of
Right.
comment.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next speaker.
Hello, NUSD board. This is Ziana Monroe. I'm a recent graduate of the TAM district schools, and I work closely with students in Novato and from across the county on racial justice issues, and whether the use of SROs is the result of increased fear around school shootings with the goal of protecting students, or a tool for the mass incarceration of people, students of color specifically, it has become clear that our schools are failing children and families across the country. National data reflects this, but also local data reflects this. Marin has been ruled the most racially disparate county in the state, as we've all heard many times, and that includes education and criminal justice. Anecdotally, dozens of students of color have come forward on social media platforms and spoken with courage of their harmful and often violent experiences with SROs at Novato schools. When we're talking about data, where is the data that proves that SROs are more safe, creating more safe environments and safety and success within school districts? Why are only suspension rates being shown instead of citation and arrest rates for SROs? I don't really understand why the conversation is just being centered around suspensions, as a lot of the board members said. And Chris, there isn't a direct correlation between suspension rates and SROs, but there are a very direct correlation with citation and arrest rates. So I don't understand why that data isn't being provided to us. I don't understand how you can teach an educational unit on SROs without being transparent about their effect on students. The SRO program begs the necessary question for all of us, who is really safe under their watch? As an extension of the carceral state, SROs strengthen racist and oppressive systems. As the last speaker said, they were developed as, part of the police department, which has been used to protect white people, white property, in the history of our country. And now with, the creation of school resource officers, that reach is just being encroached onto students in an environment where they're supposed to be learning and feeling safe and comfortable and successful. So I think it's just really as a community, we need to take a deeper look into what kind of environment we're creating when we have a school with armed police officers walking around campus. I think removing SROs from Marin County schools is an essential first step and just one of many steps to deconstruct the harmful cycle that perpetuates lifelong racial inequity. In order to support youth of color and our youth at large, we must reevaluate our schools as an institution. Is that time? Thank you.
Am I up? Yeah. I just want to thank you all for having this conversation. What I wanted to do, I was going to sort of talk about your path moving forward, but then I saw those 5 goals, and I just wanted to discuss those a bit. I think one of them was that SROs, one of their goals is to be responders to violence, which I think should be done kind of first and foremost by folks that have greater expertise in de-escalation, and that police should be used as a no bigger role than the call of last resort. They should be the absolute last resort, and we don't need them on campus for that. We don't need that sort of same SRO relationship for that. One of the other goals was for them to help craft better resolutions to conflict other than arrests and citations. And I don't think anyone believes that they're best suited for that job. Those are folks that have expertise in restorative justice that should be coming forward with those solutions. And then the other three goals were more about building rapport between officer and student and forging positive relationships. And I just don't think that trust kind of reverberates through the community in that way as we might think it does. And I think that the problem is that the issues are institutional and systemic rather than just a few bad apples. Like Black people already know police officers. I know a lot of police officers. I'm an African American. That hasn't prevented me from being stopped 3 times in 45 minutes on my way home for absolutely no reason, right? It hasn't stopped the police from trying to point the finger at me for random burglaries. It hasn't stopped, my father from, getting stopped for being Black in a white neighborhood. It just doesn't prevent any of this thing. So knowing a police officer doesn't prevent folks from having to have that talk. Didn't prevent my father from having to have that talk with me. It won't prevent me from having to have that talk with my future child, because ultimately, you're going to get profiled as a Black person. And when you're guilty, or whether you're guilty or innocent, the officers are going to see you as older. They're going to see you as more aggressive. And they frankly have the power to kill you without repercussions most of the time, because the system protects them more often than not. So it's that trust that I think we're trying to build with SROs kind of infiltrating into the school system and hoping that reverberates into the community. You would be irresponsible if you didn't have that talk with your child. If you're Black, that trust isn't going to be there until police officers in the community start doing a better job, and until there's no more George Floyds. So I think that for me, the goals just don't kind of hit.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, great. I'm wondering why we can't see the board members, and if there's a way to possibly bring them back on. We just want to make sure that everyone's able to hear the comments that are being made. Well, I'll continue with my time. I guess I appreciate you all having us here today, so thank you, and for providing this space for public comment. I did want to start, though, by doing a little bit of fact checking. There's a lot of conversation going on about suspensions. There is significant research that shows that SROs are associated with higher rates of suspensions on campus. So they may not actually be the ones doing the suspensions, but I can speak from people that I know and their personal experiences. They got in trouble from an SRO, and then right after that got suspended as a result of their interaction with the SRO. So I just want that to sink in and for everyone to understand that piece, because they are related. And so I appreciate you bringing up the suspensions, but I don't appreciate the downplaying of them not being related. The other thing that I wanted to mention, just obviously there's a lot of people that are opposing SROs here tonight and in the emails. And I think that's pretty clear that there's an overwhelming amount of people that are in opposition of SROs. But I did want to just speak to the one person that commented that in support of SROs, that there is a cost. There's a cost emotionally to students, and there's also a cost financially. This kind of goes back to the grant piece. This grant, the DOJ grant for the vaping, can be used to fund other resources, such as a health professional or someone specialized in substance use, such as a social worker. So those are both positions that are being taken, that you're choosing to instead fund a police officer to be on campus with children, rather than one of those supportive positions that could have the same goal and meet the same criteria. The other thing I want to say is I'm a little disappointed by what some of the board members mentioned. It doesn't seem like people are being very open-minded about this program and about this process. There's a lot of confirmation bias going on, people defending their beliefs, defending the need to keep SROs, and not a lot of open-mindedness. And that's really concerning to us as a community, because it really feels like, what is this process even going to look like if we can't even hear you guys being open-minded right now to us in the first presentation? The next thing I want to say is there's some gaslighting going on about the national data. It's not national data we're just talking about. Your neighboring city, San Rafael, 94% of the students arrested in SRCS were Latinx. And 90% of the students who were given citations by SROs were Black and Latinx. We demand the data, and we demand it now, and we're really concerned why you're not giving it to us.
While we're in between speakers, just know we're working on a technical glitch that's keeping us from having the board members' faces on the screen. So we're just know we're working on a solution to that. It's something that's coming up as a result of the speaker is populating the screen. So, but we're working on it. So know that that's not something we're doing intentionally. Thank you for your understanding.
Hi, can you hear me? Oh, I just got some horrible feedback. Okay, it seems like it's figured out now. My name is Fela Grilius, and I'm the trustee-elect on the Marin County Board of Education. I just have some questions and concerns specifically about the process. The first is about the educational unit that happens prior to asking about student opinions on SROs. It seems as though the educational unit itself will shift students' opinions when it's really more important to hear what their experiences and perceptions are with SROs currently. I also feel nervous about the bandwidth required for the district to implement this unit, ensure that it's effective and consistent across classrooms, especially given the immense stress and pressure teachers are already going through right now. I was honestly struck and deeply concerned about the issues that the union president brought forward, that the fears teachers are working inside of, and I think that you can avoid this added effort by just hearing student experiences immediately. Furthermore, these educational units will be highly traumatic to BIPOC students. Police violence is a life or death issue for Black and Brown people, and forcing them to go through these conversations, hearing the perspectives of people who are murdering people who look like them, is emotionally taxing, burdensome, and a trauma in itself that I urge you to reconsider. I'm also concerned about only a selection of students being chosen to have these conversations, how that process will work, and why science teachers are holding these conversations when they should be teaching science. Second off, I'm concerned about including Novato PD in the community stakeholder meetings. It can be incredibly intimidating to have conversations in front of individuals being critiqued, especially as they're uniformed, carrying weapons, etc., and wondering who the community members even are in these circles. Third, I'm curious what the percentage of total suspension rates are for Black and Latinx students versus white students when you look at the proportions of total suspensions in comparison to the proportions of representation of these folks in the district. Fourth, I have this huge concern about the release of data. There was a public records request that was submitted in August, and community members are still waiting on these records to come out in January. That's a 5-month delay, which is huge. Just as a process-based issue, and as a board member, I would be deeply concerned about the length of time between the PRA and then getting the information. I'd also love to hear a specific timeline for the implementation of this process, but would furthermore urge you to halt the process until this data is released. I agree that we have a mandate to undertake anti-racist work holistically. I think that we should reframe this conversation about SROs versus internal issues related to suspension as a both and. Step 1, remove SROs. Step 2, transform the punishment system, implement restorative justice solutions, and address that equally. I think that that is fundamentally in line with requiring ethnic studies, hiring more BIPOC teachers, etc. Thank you for your time, and I know this is a lot, so let me know if you want me to email these questions to you direct.
Hello? Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. My name is Lori Johnson. I am a Novatoan, and I am a retired school nurse, and I worked for Novato years ago. Ross Millerick might remember me. That's how long ago it was, Ross. Anyway, these kids are so eloquent and saying such they're just repeating everything I'd like to say. Two things I might add is that I know that those SROs have a lot to do with suspensions and expulsions. I've seen it. And also, I know that counselors are not involved very often in that, and that because the parents request the counselors, it upsets me. We could use so many more counselors and no SROs to help the kids, especially the BIPOC kids. I would urge the board to halt this implementation of the unit until data is publicly presented on student interactions with SROs. Please share all materials to be given to the students on this issue of SROs to the public as well. I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Hunter Franks. I'm a resident in San Anselmo. I just wanted to speak to mental health a little bit, and I think it's something that hasn't been covered too much yet tonight. As I'm sure a lot of folks are aware, mental health in schools is an issue that has increased more and more over past years. High levels of depression, anxiety, trauma, suicide rate among children from 10 to 17 increased by 70% between 2006 and 2016. And approximately 72% of children in the US will have experienced at least one major stressful event, witnessing violence, abuse, loss of a loved one, etc., before the age of 18. And as Lori, the nurse, just spoke to, that really makes it imperative for school counselors, nurses, social workers, psychologists, etc., to be at the front line of helping those kids in times of need, and not police officers. There's 1.7 million students in schools with a police officer, but not with a counselor. 3 million students in schools with police, but no nurse. 6 million in schools with police, but no psychologist, and the list goes on and on. And I think it's very, very imperative that this discussion about SROs also thinks about mental health and also looks at some of those factors. And I do think there is a direct link between not only suspensions, but just straight up arrests, which I imagine would certainly lead to suspensions. And in looking at some stories from places all over the country, there have been things that are as innocent as small little pranks, throwing a baby carrot at someone, that has led to an actual arrest and a felony charge for things that should not begin the school to prison pipeline for our kids and for our children. And we need to have schools in Novato and everywhere that are safe, and that kids feel can be places where they can go and seek appropriate help and feel that they are cared for and loved, and can grow into the humans that we want to have in our spaces and in our world. And I don't think that police officers are something that allows that to happen in the way that maybe they were intended to. So I just wanted to add those comments, and also just mention that, yeah, if the reason is that the SROs are supposed to stop kids from vaping, I think we need to revisit what it is SROs are actually doing in schools, because it's clear that that's not actually what is happening, and that they are detrimental to the safety and to the development of our youth. Thank you.
Hi there, can you guys hear me? Awesome. Hi, my name is Jack Parnell Wolf. I graduated from high school 1327 in 2015. I'm currently actually on the TAM District Racial Justice Task Force. And on that task force, the subcommittee I'm on is taking on the topic of restorative justice and SROs. So I'm actually pretty closely, I'm paying attention to this here and the other discussions that are happening in San Rafael, because as opposed to what the first caller said, I do really think it's important that as Marin County, we are paying attention to other school districts and how they're handling this issue too, because our neighbors are us. I firmly believe that. And so when I see San Rafael voting to discontinue their SRO program, it makes me think about, as a TAM district person, why is TAM district not doing that, or is TAM district having this conversation? So I'm happy to see that the conversation is starting here, and I really would encourage, for the few community or board members that I've heard that really leaned into the kind of discomfort of this conversation, I would really encourage for all of the board members to continue to lean into that discomfort, because we are going to have to face difficult truths about this country, as we have been over this last summer, over the last 4 years of this administration. We're having to face difficult truths about the racial disparities in this country, and those disparities definitely exist in Marin. And I think it would be kind of arrogant and ignorant to pretend otherwise. So I'm happy that we're having this conversation. I really would urge you to consider trauma-informed solutions to investigating these questions for children, because again, I don't want to have this process of investigating turn into a way that these students are forced to re-experience these things that are so clearly detrimental to their health and their well-being. So there might be third-party groups or organizations who are happy to help with this. Don Carney and Marin Youth Court and Youth Transforming Justice definitely is a place that I'm sure you know of, and I would encourage you to look to in terms of facilitating discussions that we see in the circles. I would also encourage you to consider not including the police officers or police representatives in discussions where you're asking kids to come forward about their experiences with police. I think that just makes no sense if we're asking to reevaluate this thing from an unbiased perspective, to have members of the community who people have said are, they intimidate them, regardless if it's personal or not. I don't think that gives us the best idea and scope of what is actually the problem here. So I really want to continue to encourage you guys to lean into this discussion. I know that this is going to be ongoing. I know that the community cares deeply about this. And I hope that you guys can also be in conversation with the San Rafael School Board or the TAM District School Board and see how, as a county, we can really start to work to address these systemic inequalities that we are seeing here that are so incredibly prevalent. So again, lean into the discomfort and really center the student.
Hi, can you hear me okay? Hi, I'm Cadence. I am a high school student. And so I have a couple different points that I want to touch on. The first is about conversations within NUSD itself versus, the entire county of Marin. And so one thing that I want to echo from Jack's statement is that progress can't be made just within singular districts, right? It can't be made within singular places, and in districts that have already made the step to take SROs out, that is a great learning opportunity or wealth of information for the NUSD board and other boards to draw from. The second point is that the public doesn't have data on NUSD arrests, suspensions, and citations, right? So Police Free Schools Marin filed a PRA back in August of this year asking for that data. And we were told that we wouldn't have that data back until January of 2021. So that data is not being made publicly available, which is another layer of this problem, that there's not transparency to the community about what is occurring in NUSD schools around the SRO issue. And so that kind of leads me into my next point, which is kind of unpacking this unit that's being proposed. And so the first thing about this unit is, if the public doesn't have this data on SROs, if we don't have the PRA data, how will the NUSD board and district be held accountable for what is being talked about in these learning units or community circles, right? The other thing is, too often, almost always, if not always, within our education system, whiteness is centered within conversations about race and racial trauma. And that in itself re-traumatizes BIPOC students and puts BIPOC students in a place where they have to share their trauma in order for their voices to be heard. So this learning unit is just putting BIPOC students in a situation, again, where they have to share their trauma and relive their trauma, which I think we can all agree is not something we want to be happening in our schools, right? So the next thing is
Hi, can you hear me okay? Awesome. Hi, my name is Madeline, and I'm a student in the San Rafael City Schools District, where SROs were recently eliminated. I also help lead the Diversify Our Narrative San Rafael City Schools campaign, which aims to advocate for inclusive, anti-racist, and diverse literature, which I heard some talks about earlier tonight. So I want to remind you all of some countywide data first. So in the 2018 to 2019 school year, Marin County's Black children were 9 times more likely to be suspended, and Latinx children were 2.7 times more likely to be suspended than white children. And in this same year, Black children in Marin are also 7.7 times more likely to be arrested for a minor offense than white children, and Latinx children were 3.2 times more likely. So the bottom line is here that, students, no matter their racial and or ethnic background, should feel safe and supported at school. I think that's something that we can all agree upon. But clearly, your district students do not feel safe or supported. They're speaking out against this program. And like Ava said, we need to be valuing the most marginalized voices first. The people who are most affected by this program, like Cadence was saying earlier, we need to stop making whiteness the center of all of this. We need to start valuing students of color and their voices. We shouldn't have to, they shouldn't have to share their trauma in order for their voices to be valued. So I'd love for you all to take that into consideration. But I'll leave you with this. Your job is to educate, not incarcerate, support, not incriminate. Implement more restorative justice practices. I work closely with Youth Transforming Justice in the Marin County Youth Court, like I believe Jack PW was talking about earlier. It's a great resource. I would completely, fully encourage you all to go check them out. And one more last thing is to please be transparent with the community about the specific SRO data from your school district, because these records are public information that the community has a right to. We all have a right to see this, and we demand more. So please get SROs out of schools and provide the utmost support for your students of color. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Madeline. As we shift speakers, I want to comment that the only NUSD Public Records Act request that we've received, we've fully responded to. So I believe that the Public Records Act request that's being discussed is a Public Records Act request provided to the Novato Police Department. So I'll check in with the chief and see how things are going with that. So, okay, looks like Emma, it's your turn.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hello, Novato Board, student trustee, and community members. My name is Emma, and I am calling in to support the demand to halt the implementation of the quote-unquote unit that was mentioned in Superintendent Koska's presentation. I believe that this unit should be halted until the data that many people have been requested is provided to the public. This data would include interactions between SROs and students. Board members, I also wonder why there is this plan to, quote, educate your students before asking for the truth of their experiences regarding the SROs that are posted at the campuses. I also echo the demand that all materials presented to students on the issue of SROs be made publicly available. I know that there are many others on this call tonight, so I'll keep this short and sweet, but I do urge you to extend this commenting period so that all of their voices may be heard, since this is about inclusivity and transparency. I yield the rest of my time.
Hi, my name's Hanya, and I just want to start by saying that I really appreciate that you're including this topic of SROs in the agenda and that you're providing opportunities for public comment. But I feel really strongly that there are a number of shortcomings to the plan as it exists right now. Firstly, that it doesn't seem like student input is really being prioritized. The plan presents student participation as an opportunity to educate them on the quote unquote multiple perspectives of SROs, rather than an opportunity to listen to student feedback and learn how they're impacted by SRO presence on campus. I second Eva when she says that parents, community members, staff and administrators and board members need to step back and listen to students as they are the experts on their own experiences. And I think it's crucial to give a diverse and representative cross-section of students the space to share their experience with SROs, starting with those that are most marginalized. I also request that you share the full scope of any data that you have on SROs in the district. And Chris, I appreciate you clearing that up, but I think that withholding any information that you do have leaves the education and discussion around this topic extremely biased. And as you mentioned in the presentation, we already know that the record that SRO programs have nationwide and that they have negative impacts on students of color. I have a feeling that the Novato data will show a similar trend, but we won't know that until the data is shared publicly. And lastly, I want to reiterate that removing SROs is just the first step in a much larger process to make our schools more inclusive, safe, and equitable. So as you know, this will be an ongoing project to reimagine the way we support, educate, and create justice for students. But really listening to our students has to be the first step. And I just don't see that in being included into the plan as it is right now. Thank you.
I think we're stuck over here.
Chris, can you hear us?
Can you hear us, Chris?
You're muted.
Yes, I can hear you.
There you go.
Okay, I was asking a question. Is there, and you didn't hear me. Is there anything you'd like to clarify before I move back to the board? Is there any clarification that maybe you heard within the comments or anything like that you want to add? I know you kind of did a little bit as we went along.
No, I want to say that I appreciate the perspectives, and I think we can learn a lot from it and help us to improve our process. So I appreciate the thoughts that people shared with us tonight.
All right, board members, is there Trustee Gasson, and then I remember Trustee Avila and Trustee Miller.
Good.
Oh, you're good. Okay, Trustee Gasson, go ahead.
No, I asked the person. It's okay. It's okay.
I guess just one thing I wanted to see if we could do, and I had touched on it, the concern of some people, some student voices not being heard because, not wanting to put themselves in a position to speak in front of others or to, having an opportunity to be anonymous to the extent that we could create some kind of platform where we would get their voice and input. I know we use that think thing. What is the
Pop bubbles?
No, the side thing. I don't like it, but I don't know. So I don't know, something conducive to teams that they would.
I'll take it back to the team educators that I was working with, and we can discuss. Make sure they watch the video of the meeting tonight and see how we can improve what we're talking about. Happy to do that.
I think that would be great. Again, I'm always told that like Facebook is for old people, and that's what I use. So I can't appreciate what maybe is better for them to feel that they would have a chance to have voice. And then again, the anonymous component, just so that we can open it up and make sure that we capture other thoughts.
All right,
And Chris, I'd just like to reiterate Ava's point. Let's do what we can to make sure we get really, I don't even know if we want to sample, give every BIPOC kid a chance to talk. I know that's important to you, but I think let's try to concentrate on that if we can, because I think we need to be really clear that we have given every kid a chance to talk and has something to say. So I think you got that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure how to do it, but I think we can do it. I think Dave is right. The other thing is I'd like to ask a question, because I think there's a great deal of misconception out there. There's a lot of people calling in, as the first caller said, from outside of our community who aren't familiar with what's going on in this community, what we're already doing. And Chris, I don't know if you could just do a quick little tour of our sort of justice practices and everything else we're already doing in that realm, because I personally believe we're leading the county in those efforts, but that's me. Can you just share that really quick?
Yeah, we have restorative justice specialists on each of our high school campuses that are working with our students to try to keep students from facing the sort of punitive discipline that has historically permeated our schools. It's a program that we've been building over the last couple of years, expanding expertise, using trainer of trainer models, where our restorative justice specialists are training our teachers to incorporate that into their daily interactions in classrooms. And so it's a building program here in NUSD, and it's something that we're really proud of.
Anybody else? All right, I will bring this item to a close, and just reminding the community, this is just the start for us in this conversation. It'll be ongoing. We all appreciate the comments and public comment we received this evening. We respect your opinions and your thoughts and your perspective. So thank you for joining us for that. We have received hundreds of emails probably over the course of several months in regards to SROs. I know the community was asking to have this on the agenda, put this on the agenda. It's a matter of finding the right spot to put that on the agenda, and this evening was the right place for that. So know that we eventually did get to it. It's an important conversation for our community and for our students. We truly understand that. So know that we are listening. It helps us as board members to form our thoughts around this as we move forward. So your viewpoint is important. And we will take this plan that's in place now, and there will probably be some adjustments as we go along, but this is a start, like I said. So thank you, Superintendent Koska, for bringing this forward, and we'll look for further updates from you as we move along. And thank you, Eva, for this topic and for providing your input. That is very valuable to us as a student board member, so thank you.
Thank you, Eva.
All right, we will now move into our discussion action items. The first item is 14A, another important item for us, and this comes back the last few years. This has been coming back. This is the adoption of resolution number 12, 2020-2021, proclaiming November 30th to December 6th as United Against Hate Week. And there was a few revisions to the resolution. You should have a hard copy at your desk for those revisions. And Leslie Benjamin, our public information officer, our director of communications, is on the screen here and will be presenting this item.
Thank you, President Butler. Good evening, trustees and Superintendent Koska. Tonight I bring before you a resolution recognizing United Against Hate Week. This resolution is strongly supported by Not in Our Town, Novato, a community coalition of individual community members, a private sector nonprofit, North Marin Community Services, and a public sector agencies, including the Novato Unified School District, the City of Novato, the Novato Police Department, and the Marin County District Attorney's Office. It is also associated with Not in Our Town, a leading anti-hate organization that serves a network of hundreds of schools and communities across the country who stand against bullying, hate, and inequality and work to bridge differences, foster inclusion, and build equity. United Against Hate Week is designed to bring communities together to learn from each other, surface local concerns, and seek solutions. Last year, Not in Our Town received a small grant from the Marin Board of Supervisors, and the group purchased several signs advertising this week as United Against Hate Week. As you can see them around town, and they're also in my background here to highlight this week. Also purchased was a banner that is currently across DeLong Avenue welcoming people to Novato and stating that Novato is working together for a safe, inclusive, and equitable community. This is the third year this resolution has been brought before you, and I thank Trustee Aguila for a couple of clarifications, making it more inclusive to Indigenous people and including discrimination based on religious beliefs. And as President Butler noted, a copy of updated resolution is at your table. In short, the resolution recognizes November 30th to December 6th as United Against Hate Week in conjunction with the City of Novato and other Bay Area cities. Among several items, the resolution resolves that the Novato Unified School District is dedicated to opposing hate and intolerance in our schools and community, addressing bullying, and building safe, inclusive communities. Celebrates the 2-year anniversary of the partnership of NUSD, the City of Novato, and North Marin Community Services supporting the grassroots group Not in Our Town, Novato. And lastly, supports the December 3rd, this Thursday, virtual event to view what it takes to be racially literate, raising awareness of implicit bias followed by community conversation, and introducing a speaker series for early 2021 entitled A More Just Novato. And as of this afternoon, we're excited that we have 75 attendees so far. So thank you very much.
All right, great. That's great to hear, Leslie, that you have I've signed up myself, so I will be on that. Any comments from the board? Trustee Hill?
I just wanted to thank Leslie and glad that this came forward too. And that's it. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the resolution number 12, 2021, to proclaim November 30th, 2020 to December 6th, 2020 as United Against Hate Week.
Okay, so first by Trustee Vila, second by Trustee Mel. There's no further discussion. I will ask for the call for the vote. All those in favor? 7-0. Great. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
I'm going to wait on the last item in our discussion action 14B, and I'm going to move to Diane pulled item 15I, whoever whispered that. And we're going to have Mike Woolard, there he is. And we'll bring this item to our discussion action. So I will turn it over to Trustee Gasson to express her comments or questions.
Oh, yeah, he is.
Are you hiding? So thank you, and I know Mike, he responded to my email, and I apologize. I've been a little preoccupied with making sure I didn't forget to pick my 6th grader up from her 90 minutes at school today. So I had asked for clarification regarding the, so I got the wrong thing. The change order, was it number 4? Is that what it's listed as?
Yes.
Partly because when I was looking at this collectively, along with the information about the orchestra shell equipment, I started getting a little concerned. So from what I understand from the reports and these two things combined is that the change orders, the change orders for the Center for the Sciences, those I'm fine with. I understand that that project is 100% complete, and these were things, there's still a little bit of the, I forget what I keep forgetting that phrase, the funds that are left over, the contingency funds. So that project's okay. What I started getting nervous about was the changes for the Center for the Arts. So, with it showing that they're 60% complete and the remaining amount for contingency is not that much, and the fact that we're having to go back out for the orchestra shell equipment, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with, where are we going from here? Where are we going to get the money if things continue to go, or if we can't find a reasonable bid for the orchestra? I don't understand all these pieces, and I feel like from prior discussions when we talked about the changes to the San Marin fields that that budget went way beyond what we thought, and I think that we had said, well, there's some projects that are going to be underbid. I wanted to feel a bit better about how we're going to put this all together and make sure that we have everything that we need for this facility, given that we don't seem to have a lot of extra money left and that there's still a lot to do.
Excellent questions. And actually, I believe Yancey would like to talk first to discuss some of the more overarching budget concerns. So Yancey, I'll turn it over to you first.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Thank you, Diane. On this item, we too share your concern around the contingency going low on the Center for the Arts. One thing I would like to note is while we are 60% complete, we are out of the ground. We are, substantially complete with the shell and even a lot of the work. And a big portion of the unknown things that you run into before you get out of the ground. In this case, very specifically, we started with a relatively small contingency on this project, below 5%. To put that in perspective, on our design bid build projects, we use about a 10% contingency. On this project, also, we issued the contract prior to final DSA stamp out, and 50% of the change orders to date relate to, or over 50% relate to those. But I do want to note that we are reviewing this project in detail. There are significant other areas where we're looking at potentially looking at savings in a couple other areas. And so we believe that there are some savings in other areas of the budget that if we need to increase the contingency, we would have potentially some areas there. The other thing is to clarify on the orchestra shell. We do have it within the budget for the orchestra shell, even at the cost that was that we are proposing that you reject. It's because that specific item, we had, Mike, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, we had 4 packages, 4 separate packages out on the street.
Yes, for the FF&E for the performing art, or the Center for the Arts.
Yeah, so 3 of the 4 were accepting, and then the 4th, we only received 1 bid, and it was higher than our estimate for that specific part of the FF&E. And I believe overall there's about $1 million in that budget, Mike, for FF&E. So that one, we believe that the number was just high on that specific item. And it's within our budget had we moved forward, but we weren't going to move forward on an item that we believed was higher than our estimate. And we only received 1 bid on that, and we expect at least 2 or more bids when we go out again. So there could be some savings in there, but we are going to continue to monitor this project. It is a very large project. When you put the 2 projects together, you're looking north of $38 million. And so we will be bringing the board some updates in the next couple of weeks. And if we do believe that additional contingency is needed, we will let the board know at that time, and we would let them know where that would come from, whether that be from other, savings in a project, whether that be FF&E or other parts of the project, or if by any chance we would be asking for an increase to the overall budget to the project. but we would bring that to the board before we took any action around moving forward.
Well said. You don't have anything to add. Does that answer your questions, Trustee Hassan, or do you have any other questions?
I guess my concern is that, I mean, it was going really well until we got to, where we, I just don't want to keep shrinking those pots that we assign to certain projects because we're running essentially really. But
Trustee Gasson, at this time, unless significantly new information arises, I do not expect this to have any impact on any of the other budgets of any projects.
Right. Well, the thing that struck me that helped me was that if this orchestra piece even came in at that high level, it's not going to further diminish the little bit of contingency that we have.
Correct.
I mean, again, looking at these side by side, I'm thinking we don't have a lot left, and if we can't finish this project with the I understand that the bid was just high or whatever, but I want to make sure that there's clarity because we have a commitment to the community and those people supporting, the bond and funding these projects. I don't want to be like, well, we got this done, but we couldn't do the orchestra, and I don't know what piece is missing, but just that understanding and appreciation for where we are so that we just make sure that, it's unfortunate that costs keep going up or things have to be changed and stuff, and I appreciate that. So thank you for the.
Absolutely. We appreciate the questions because they are very good questions, and especially around the orchestra shell, it definitely, because they came at the same time, it's very easy to think that they were linked. But in this case, that one was just staff ensuring that we get the best pricing on that, and we're ensuring that keeping the rest of our powder dry, if you were.
So are you good, Trustee Gasson? Okay.
You're going to make a motion?
Yeah, would you like to make a motion to move this item?
Sure. I don't remember what it is. I can't have my glasses on.
You can just say item 15I, approval of change order number 4.
Okay. I make a motion to approve item 15I. Actually, I think I changed to 14C, the approval of change order number 4 to Right Contracting LLC.
Okay. All right. So we have a first by Trustee Gasson, a second by Trustee Nell as he raises his hand. All those in favor? 7-0. Thank you for forward and providing. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Mike.
Night, Mike. Night, Mike.
All right, moving on to the final item this evening. This is a discussion that we have every year at this time. This is regarding the next board president, vice president. It's something we need to have at the board table discussion. I always think it's important that we do have it every year. We just don't know what's happening and what's going on. Our normal transition is usually the vice president moves into the board president for the next year. I've been serving as board president for the last 3 years because of just logistics. That Trustee Scott, Shelley Scott, was our VP at the time, but she had to step down because she became our county assessor. So that sort of snowballed into me doing this over a course of 3 years, which is not our norm. Normally, we like to change over every year. And so I just want to open it up to discussion to the board and see where we're at. Probably tired of me. So.
Never.
Trustee Miller.
So not tired of you. Thank you for 3 years of service. I would like to put my name forward. I've just got elected to 4 years of service. I'll be sworn in next December 15th. And I would like to take on the responsibility of the presidency for this coming term. I expect this will be the last 4 years I serve, and because I still have a full-time job, I'm unsure how the future years would go. I'd like to make sure I serve as president one of those 4 years, so I'm going to offer to take on that role for this board.
Yeah, I want to back up a little bit, and I apologize. Normally, like I said, our normal process is the VP goes right into, that's what we do, and I should have went right to Trustee D. We haven't even talked to you at all, and hear your thoughts in potentially moving into the board president. So I will turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So First of all, I just want to thank President Butler for working with us for keeping this board alive for 3 years. And I think it's a lot of hard work. I've been with you for 2 years. I get it. And I especially want to thank your husband for sharing you with us for all this time. I know you got to do things at home, you got to do things here. And I really just want to thank Gary for that.
Thank you.
So, I know that it's very time consuming, and it's been an honor, it's been a pleasure and a privilege to be able to work with you and to be able to serve the board as VP. So, however, technically, yes, I am supposed to be next in line. And however, I just, for me, this coming year will come down to a balance to my personal life and my life here on the board. And I have another responsibility at home that I need to prioritize. And so I will regret not being able to serve on the board, but I also don't want to regret not being able to prioritize what I need to be at for my family. So it's been a pleasure, it's been an honor, and I'm here. And I'm glad that you're stepping up.
Well, thank you so much for 3 years of great service.
2 years.
But just to be clear, Trustee Gill is not stepping down from the board, because you said step down from the board.
Stepping down from
You're going to back away from moving into president.
And then even tonight, I mean, I would never leave the board. You know, and if you hadn't stepped up, Trustee, I would have said.
Yeah, no, I know you would. Your service to this board is admirable. It's been a pleasure every year working with you.
And so I just, you know, if you hadn't stepped up, I would have gladly sacrificed and balance. You know, you can always balance and do what you need to do. But I appreciate the board letting me, you know, families first. So.
Well, I appreciate you expressing your thoughts this evening, and you obviously have thought this through, it sounds like. And so I appreciate you just expressing that and doing what's right for you.
And if you need support, Trustee Ulrich,
I will count on you. I have. We have to work as a team, and you've been a great participant and with great ideas that brought focus on.
I have a different style. I'm more quiet, and then sometimes when I say things, I just say how I feel. But anyway, and my heart's in the right place, and so I'm here for the board. If you need me to be vice president, if you need me to fill in or whatever, I'm here. Not going anywhere.
I want to, talk to the rest of the board. We have Trustee Gila has decided, as you said, to step back, and Trustee Miller has expressed his interest in being the president. So I will leave it to Trustee Mack and then Trustee Gasson.
I'm willing to step up as VP, but I want to defer to our esteemed board member who only have 2 years left to see if that's something he wants to do.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be discussing this, but if I first, Trustee Macaron, I recognize President Butler's service for 3 years. I mean, you've done a solid job.
Thank you.
And I really think people should understand how hard this is. I've served as president twice myself. Coincidentally, both times having to do a superintendent search. So I just think it's important that people know how much you've done for our community as the board president, and Trustee Aguila as well. You've also put in a solid performance in herding these cats and keeping things going. We're more recently addressing the COVID restriction issues and so forth. Personally, I think it's important that part of this discussion really ought to be what we're going to be facing in the future. So when we talk about our leadership going forward, we're going to want to kind of get a feel for that somewhat, and that might help all of us with the decision as who's probably best suited for the role. I think it's important, and we recognize that we've got severe budget issues coming up. There's a lot of unpredictability, not just in the public education, but in our economy and our country and culture as well. So I think when we're thinking about who's going to be our next president and so forth, I think experience is probably going to be very important. One of the roles of the board president, there's a lot of talk about parliamentary procedures and keeping the meetings going and so forth. But at the same time, that individual does represent the district as a whole as the spokesperson and sets forth our vision and what it is we want to do. So I think we should talk a little bit about that just before jumping one way or the other. And these are always kind of difficult from a perspective as a layperson. We're talking about who we should nominate, who should be our leader. We have to do it in a public, open, transparent process. And no one's really had an opportunity to speak to one another about this issue. So we're basically doing it right now. I'm happy to hear that Trustee Miller is interested in the positions. I would certainly claim a hardened veteran and maybe the best qualified for what the unpredictability of the future is going to be. And you can rest assured that I'll be here to take them on anytime we agree and disagree.
Well, and that's why we're a 7-member board. You've heard me argue for more voices.
Yeah. So, having said all that, it's I'm still, believe it or not, I'm somewhat optimistic about our future, and I'm excited about this. And we're going to move forward. We're going to have a new trustee on the board. Tom, just been awesome. I know we're not doing the whole bye-bye right now, but not yet. No, hold up. You've been a great.
We're going to buy you a house.
You've been a superb trustee, and I'm really good working. Without you, the district would not be in as good a shape as it is. Thanks. So having said all that, I think if we have a trustee with a high level of experience, a good president before, is interested in the position, that's a good for us. Secondary, I think the next thing we should go to is probably get some more experience for some of our newer trustees. And having been on the board, I forget, 16, 17 years or something like that, having done the position before, I think it would be better for the community if we had a new vice president, someone that could be getting more involved in the experience to eventually become president in our traditional way. So I'm interested to hear what the other trustees have to say. I will, if asked or if people think it's important, I would step up and serve with any capacity for this board because I feel that's an obligation. But I think we have a solution as president probably suggested already. And as far as vice president, I'm hoping that we can pick a person who can fill that role and get the experience that I think will benefit them as they eventually become the president. So that's where I'm at right now. So let's hear what others
Thank you,
have to
Trustee
say.
Nell. And just for any community members listening, this is just a discussion. We're not making any decisions tonight. We're just expressing our viewpoints, and we take that vote and moving of trustees around on the 15th. So, Trustee Gasson, you want to give any comments or?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts, and
I'd love to hear it.
Well, my biggest one is that I have continued to be amazed at all that you do. And I don't think people, I certainly didn't as a community member recognize how much you do in the background, or at least my experience has only been with you as president and seeing you, at all these events, coordinating the agenda. I asked you something and you got it to like today. You sent me something like within minutes. You just know where everything is, and it's just it's been extremely helpful for me as a new trustee, and it's been just invaluable.
Thank you.
Because this is a lot. It's a big undertaking, and I think as was mentioned, we have a new trustee coming in next meeting, and because of how things have played out, I'm the only one that will be running at the next election, and we'll have potentially 3 if
we have 2 new board
new people too. So we're going to have a lot of new.
Three brand new.
Right. And I'm, we'll see what happens in I'm in a highly contentious spot or district. But so I think that, we've just got a lot of changes coming. And I've had the same thinking as Trustee Nell was talking about, is we've got, COVID still to deal with, the budget. And so I appreciate Trustee Miller stepping up, because I think having that experience is great, because there's all these logistical things and how do we move forward. And I was actually going to throw my hat in as vice president. So, it was, I would love an opportunity to do that, but I also appreciate, if you've got time and interest and stuff. I think that it would be great to continue on and try to train some of us that haven't been to take on that role going forward.
My thinking in terms of vice president is these two trustees have put the time in and are to the point where they need to move forward and get the next experience out of this process. And I think it's a question of who goes first and who goes second, not so much as we would. And so I would say boy, girl, but I mean, maybe that's a little playgroundish, but maybe, I don't know, just.
I think it's style too.
It's style and,
how you correlate what your strengths are and what that other person's strengths might be. And it's helpful.
You and I are opinionated. Well, except for maybe him, we're probably.
Inquired.
But yeah, anyway. So I wonder how that might work. So.
So I'll make it simpler, because Debbie knows, I'm going to echo everything else that you know that. Yeah, you've been a rock for us. I really appreciate everything you've done. You've worked hard, worked really hard to do this. So I want to make clear, I really appreciate that. But as you know, we've had this conversation. I have a heavy work schedule. I don't travel much anymore for some reason. I wonder why.
All the banks are going out of business. Oh, no.
Can't travel. So, that's kind of freed me up. But at the same time, I do appreciate the fact that you and I both have similar work situations that are pretty heavy. And it's probably better to have you complementing that because, different work situation. And
like no work situation.
I didn't say that. I would,
Nice.
So,
but
we don't have to decide. Hold on.
But anyway, so where I'm going is, I think, maybe it does make sense, and, hey, do the boy girl thing, like you said. But anyway, but also I do think that there's a difference in style, more clear difference in style between two of you than between the two of us, and I get that. So, and maybe what we do is that, because I do think I do need to step up. I am going to be one of the more senior people on this board. I do need to start leading. I've been kind of, getting away with not having to do that, intentionally, but it's time to start doing it. So maybe then the next year.
I would support that.
Yeah, you go up and I basically support you. It's just that I just want to make sure you don't have another year in you to do this, because you got 2 years left.
Oh, I could do it, but I think the district would be better served.
Okay.
With one of our other trustees learning more about the position from the vice presidential role.
So when some of you haven't been on the board when I've served as president before.
Oh, I have.
Oh, God.
Rob, you just walk right into
My view of the role of president is a consensus builder and administrator. And while you've heard me in this room take strong opinions, my view is, as the chair, your job is to help people come to consensus. And I will step away some of my strong opinions or give them to somebody else to advocate for. Yeah, well, but I think that's how we be successful. I think that's how we be successful.
You're going to get that in writing, you guys.
Yeah.
So we're also just giving
So, I'm respectful of, Debbie's been able to do that very effectively, and I honor that, and I will follow that precedent that she set. I think it's the right way to do business.
Okay, trustee Cooper?
Can I, not that it's gonna make a whole lot of
Your
difference.
voice is not.
Yeah, well,
Doesn't matter.
Wish you had you as a candidate.
Right?
Yeah, so it's a heartbreak you're gonna be leaving, sir.
Oh, thanks, Rob. But that's not why I raised my hand. I just wanted to say, in one way, I'm glad I'm not gonna be here, because the next meeting is gonna be hard to choose. Such good candidates here, Ross. All of you could be president or vice president, you know, in a leadership role. And so, I think, Ross, you were a great president.
Oh, thank you.
And I think you served him well and
Even more.
yeah. No, I think you'd be a great addition. And I just wanted to say two more things. Debbie, you and Maria, I really appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you.
I worked with you for a long time on this board, and you have done an outstanding job. I don't know who else could do it better.
Well, yeah.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Maria.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you don't get to leave, by the way.
No.
No.
This is still a 7-minute board, and we still make the
All right,
decisions about 8,000 kids, so.
I think we've come to some consensus, it sounds like. So thank you for the conversation and being open and honest, and thank you, trustee Gila, for your comments. And,
It hasn't been decided yet.
no, it has not,
Yeah,
but we
yeah.
have an idea, is
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Okay.
Are you gonna ask Chris what he wants to add?
No, because this is the board.
No, Penny,
All
for
right,
your thoughts.
so this item is, we're done with it, and I will bring this meeting to closure. This meeting's adjourned, and the next meeting is December 15th, like I said earlier, at 7 PM, and we'll all be in this boardroom most likely. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
As people are logging off,